I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I just think it is really weird when parents tell me they bathe their children every day. This is my daughter's room. Look at this.
If you've spent more than 5 minutes on TikTok's rage bait side, chances are you've already stumbled across Mama C, or at least one of her clips stitched, duetted, or angrily reposted by someone who couldn't believe what they were hearing. Mama C is a TikToker and a mother of 6 whose entire online presence seems engineered for one thing and one thing only: outrage. Her content isn't subtle because she openly boasts about behavior that most parents would never admit to online, let alone monetize. According to her own videos, she bathes her children only once a week, frequently refers to them as brats, and has claimed that she takes her oldest daughter's paycheck to help pay household bills. Mama C has repeatedly claimed that she receives thousands of dollars in government assistance, disability checks, food stamps, and other benefits, at one point stating that she brings in over $10,000 a month through social programs alone. But despite people calling her out for literally scamming the government, she just refuses to get work, insisting that it's not her responsibility to provide for her family, but the responsibility of U.S. taxpayers. And she doesn't just say this defensively, she says it proudly, daring viewers to argue with her. Then there's the attention-seeking. Whenever another creator goes viral for helping a struggling family or feeding someone in need, Mama C has a pattern of inserting herself into the narrative, claiming she's part of that family, or accusing the creator of lying about their charity. She's done this multiple times, each incident conveniently resulting in more views, more stitches, and more engagement. And perhaps the most disturbing part of all, her children are often right there in the videos. They're literally dragged into content that many viewers find unsettling, humiliating, and deeply unfair. So today we're breaking down Mama C's online persona, her repeated claims, her rage bait tactics, and the very real ethical questions surrounding the way she uses both social media and her kids for attention. Because at some point, rage bait stops being just content and starts revealing something much darker underneath. So Mama C, also known as Mama Courtney, is a TikToker who blew up on the platform nearly a year ago, primarily due to her rage bait content. Because she lies so consistently and so boldly about almost every aspect of her life, there is very little verified personal information available about her. What generally is known based on her own repeated claims is that she has around 6 children with 4 different fathers, does not work, and openly states that she lives entirely off social benefits. As of right now, Courtney appears desperate to go viral, and she's doing absolutely everything in her power to make that happen. She currently has over 500,000 followers on TikTok, where she posts rage bait content almost every single day. Her videos are designed to provoke outrage, spark arguments, and pull people into her comment sections, whether they believe her or not. So what kind of rage bait content are we actually talking about here? Well, buckle up. Take, for instance, one of her more bizarre viral videos, where she claims that her daughter, who appears to be around 7 years old, was switched at the hospital after birth. According to Courtney, the hospital supposedly contacted her years later to inform her that another couple had apparently taken a paternity test and discovered they were raising Courtney's biological child. Yes, that is the story she presented to hundreds of thousands of viewers, completely straight-faced.
The hospital that I delivered my daughter at 7 years ago just called me, telling me that they need me to come in right away. First thing tomorrow morning, we have a meeting. 7 years ago, I gave birth to my daughter on September 29th, 2017. The parents of another little girl, also born that day, same time, in the room right next to me. The parents, or the mother, is going through a child custody court with the father. They had to do a DNA test. DNA test comes back, the mother is not the mother. The hospital calls me, telling me that our daughters were switched at birth. That we both delivered our daughters at the same time. They were in the same nursery together.
To that point.
I have to go to the hospital tomorrow morning. 7 years? 7 years. The hospital switched our little girls. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to do.
That's something I can understand.
If this is true, what do we do? I mean, my daughter, I'm not giving her up. 7 years. Well, this is a lawsuit, okay? So if this did happen and we just become millionaires, I guess follow for part 2, because I won't know until tomorrow. I am in.
Needless to say, most people did not buy it. The comment section did not spare her even a little, with viewers immediately pointing out inconsistencies, implausibilities, and outright holes in her story. But what's particularly interesting here is that throughout this entire saga, you can clearly see Courtney doing something she does often, lifting other people's viral stories almost word for word and inserting herself directly into the narrative to chase engagement. In fact, there was a highly publicized viral story back in 2023 about a baby being switched at the hospital, with the truth coming out 5 years later after a paternity test. The similarities between that real case and Courtney's TikTok story are hard to ignore. It's painfully obvious where the inspiration came from. And this wasn't a one-off. Courtney also attempted to hijack another viral moment involving a TikToker who claimed she was suing her parents for giving birth to her without her consent. That video circulated widely as satire and rage bait, and instead of reacting to it like a normal viewer, Courtney decided to insert herself into the story once again. She uploaded a TikTok claiming that she was actually the viral girl who had sued her parents for bringing her into the world.
Yes, I am the girl going viral because I am suing my parents for $500,000 for me being born. Yes, I am 35 years old. And when my mother gave birth to me, when her and my father got pregnant with me, they didn't try to contact me before being born to ask me if I actually wanted to be here. Like, when I was born, I didn't realize I was going to have to, grow up, work, pay my own bills, all these things.
Yes, she quite literally claimed to be the person from that viral story. This is Courtney's entire playbook. She rage baits people relentlessly and doesn't even attempt to be original about it. Most of the stories she tells on TikTok are either blatantly borrowed from other rage bait creators or completely fabricated by her own imagination. There's no creativity, no nuance, just shock value recycled over and over again. More recently, Courtney went after another creator named Sasha, who went viral after posting a wholesome video about a neighborhood girl knocking on her door and asking to join her family for dinner. The creator welcomed the child, fed her, and spent time with her alongside her own kids, and the video resonated deeply with viewers across the platform. Naturally, Courtney couldn't let that moment exist without inserting herself into it. She uploaded a video claiming that she was the mother of the girl who knocked on Sasha's door, alleged that her daughter didn't go there willingly, and implying that the entire situation was misrepresented.
Okay, yes, I am a mother whose daughter knocked on her neighbor's door. I am a mother whose daughter knocked on her neighbor's door, asking the neighbor to invite her to dinner because she hadn't been fed and was hungry, and that her mom wouldn't allow her to go to anybody's house and eat unless she was invited. I am that mom, okay? The creator has now went viral with her video talking about this whole situation. She's telling everybody that she is paying, she's helping me. She's paying for my utilities. She's helping me get on welfare. All these things lie. All lies. That is not what happened. That is not what happened at all. This woman brought it upon herself to bathe my child without permission. There was no inviting her to dinner. Okay, my child didn't go over there, knock on the door, and ask to be invited for dinner. Okay, my kids have food. That isn't the case at all. So, if you see this video, you need to take yours down before I tell what really happened. I'm not playing anymore. Because now you're dragging my name through the freaking mud, making me look like this crazy mother that doesn't take care of her kids.
Of course, none of this was supported by evidence. It was nothing more than a transparent attempt to discredit another creator's story and ride the wave of someone else's viral success. Some creators on the platform have clearly noticed this pattern in Courtney's content and have openly called her out for her blatant lies. One creator in particular made an entire video breaking down how Courtney was fabricating stories about that viral video, despite the fact that this woman was simply trying to help a struggling family in her neighborhood. Instead of acknowledging the generosity, Courtney chose to discredit her, accusing her of being a fraud and implying that her viral act of kindness was staged. There was no proof to back up these claims whatsoever, yet Courtney spread them anyway, knowing full well the kind of backlash and harassment such accusations can cause.
This creator, I will tag her down below, recently had some videos that went very viral because one of her daughter's friends that lives in their neighborhood is really struggling with basic necessities and her family is in need. Those videos went viral and this mother is actually helping that child's mother because their family is really struggling right now. Mama C has taken it upon herself multiple times to create rage bait content claiming to be that little girl's mother. Except this most recent time, she took it a step further, again claiming to be that little girl's mother, telling people that original creator is scamming and that people should go report her account for fraud. So she's basically lying to create this fake story so that she can make money.
What bothers us the most is that Courtney doesn't just lie in a vacuum. She repeatedly drags real, identifiable people into her fabricated narratives, often without their consent. She's done this far too many times, and each time, the consequences could be very real for the people she targets. One particularly unhinged example was when Courtney claimed that Drew Jenkins, from the Resilient Jenkins family, had gotten her pregnant, a statement that makes absolutely no sense and was never supported by any evidence or prior connection.
This message is for Stephanie Jenkins. As everybody knows, Drew left Stephanie. I am the reason he left. As you can see, we're expecting, okay? This baby is coming in 2 months. Less than 2 months, okay? Stephanie, I would stop the crying and get your big girl panties on because Drew is not coming back to you, okay? Drew is happy with me now, and we are starting our family together, okay? I just sent him money for a bus ticket.
But even that wasn't the lowest point. More recently, Courtney crossed a line that shocked a massive portion of the TikTok community. In late May, many people were grieving the tragic death of OK Baby, a beloved 2-year-old who passed away in a devastating car accident that also left both of his parents seriously injured. The story deeply affected viewers across the platform, and most people responded with empathy, compassion, and respect for the grieving family. Courtney, however, saw an opportunity. In the aftermath of this tragedy, she began posting long, inflammatory statements on TikTok, attempting to rage bait viewers by placing blame on the child's father. She claimed, without evidence, that the baby died because her parents were fighting during the car ride. She went as far as saying that there were witnesses to support this supposed argument, a claim that was never substantiated and directly contradicts publicly available information. She didn't stop there. Courtney expressed in one of her videos that the father should be criminally charged, alleging that he intentionally slammed the car into a tree. She also accused the child's mother of faking her grief and remorse over the death of her own child. These were not vague insinuations. They were direct, explicit accusations made to a large audience during an already heartbreaking time.
But it doesn't stop there because she recently made this post about OK Baby, who recently just passed away. And if you guys aren't familiar, it's a family on this app who recently got into a car accident and their very young son passed. She posts this. So is Preston's dad going to be criminally charged for causing the accident? There are now claims that he was in a rage and drove into the tree on purpose. Are you joking? This isn't true. She's making this all up for rage bait. Her original account with over 200,000 followers was removed, but she just posted that on her backup account. If you want to post rage bait content, fine, have at it, but don't involve real people and make up fake things about real people.
Now, let's be clear. We understand that Courtney is a rage baiter. In fact, she has openly embraced that label herself, proudly displaying it in her bio as if it's some kind of badge of honor. And many rational people online agree that the best way to deal with rage baiters is to ignore them. to avoid feeding their desire for attention, engagement, and ultimately money. But content like this is exactly why ignoring someone like Courtney isn't always that simple. What she says online isn't harmless. Her words carry weight, especially when they're being consumed by thousands of people who may not know the full context of the situation she's talking about. Among those viewers, there are inevitably people who don't know what truly happened to that little girl and her family, and who may take Courtney's version of events at face value. There are also viewers who may believe her false claims about other creators. That's why exposing rage baiters like Courtney matters. Not because they're annoying, but because misinformation, when repeated loudly and often enough, can cause real harm. Allowing creators like her to continue unchecked only ensures that more people are misled, targeted, and exploited for clicks. And speaking of exploitation, Courtney's negative influence doesn't stop with other creators. It extends directly into her own home. One of the most disturbing aspects of her content is the constant, shameless involvement of her children in her elaborate lies. She regularly inserts them into the narrative she spins online, using them as props for outrage. One of the most glaring examples of this behavior is a video where she refers to her own daughters as brats, accusing them of being disrespectful and blaming them for destroying a room. In that video, she shows viewers a room filled with clutter and junk, visibly disheveled and chaotic, and places the blame squarely on her children, broadcasting their supposed misbehavior to hundreds of thousands of strangers online. And that alone should make anyone uncomfortable.
How do they expect us to get these things done if you can't pay for it with your food stamps? Government, thank you once again. You're not gonna freaking believe this. This is my daughter's room. Look at this. She freaking destroyed it. Destroyed it. She had 3 of the little neighborhood kids over here. Look at the bed. It's not even put together. Rylan.
What?
What did you do to this bedroom?
Nothing.
What do you mean?
It was my sister.
Why is it destroyed?
After watching that video, viewers were quick to point out something Courtney clearly didn't expect. In one of her earlier uploads, she had shown this exact same room to her audience and described it as a storage space. Back then, it wasn't framed as a disaster caused by disrespectful children. It was simply a cluttered storage room. This immediately exposed yet another inconsistency in her storytelling. What makes the situation even more heartbreaking is that she involved her children in this lie, encouraging them to play along with her narrative. These kids have no real understanding of what their mother's doing online, yet they're being pulled into her fabricated stories for clicks and engagement. There's another video where Courtney tells her audience that she didn't allow one of her daughters to go to Disneyland. According to her, the child's father, who is not the father of her own children, refused to pay for all of Courtney's kids to attend the trip. So instead of allowing her daughter to go with her own father, Courtney claimed she shut the entire thing down.
Daughter was invited to Disneyland by her dad's side of the family, and I am not allowing her to go unless the rest of the kids are invited. I have 6 kids total, so she has 5 sisters and brothers, ranging from 15 to 1. I am not going to allow one child to go to Disneyland. Every kid's dream is Disneyland. How would you feel as a child if you had sisters and brothers and one of your sisters was invited to Disneyland? You were watching them pack. You were watching them shop, for clothes for the trip. You were watching her leave for Disneyland with her Mickey Mouse ears. You would feel horrible, wouldn't you? Yes, I'm not going to allow one of my children to go to Disneyland if the other 5 can't go. No, he is not their biological father, but he was their stepfather at one time. And I have already offered to pay for half. I've already offered to pay for half. He just has to take them along with him. There's a bunch of adults going. There's no reason why they can't take 5 more kids. And I need a freaking break. I need a spring break.
That's all there is to it.
Once again, this screams rage bait because the story doesn't make sense no matter how you look at it. The idea that a father can afford to take his own child to Disneyland but somehow refuses to cover basic necessities for her raises obvious questions. If he has the means to fund an expensive trip like that, why isn't he paying child support? Why isn't Courtney pursuing that through the proper legal channels if this story is even remotely true? This single claim alone tells us a lot about how much she exaggerates, or outright lies, about her financial situation online. She consistently manufactures scenarios that make it appear as though she's gaming the system, not because it's true, but because it gets people talking. Outrage fuels her engagement, and engagement is exactly what she's chasing. Another example of this behavior comes from a video where Courtney claimed that her daughter, who is barely 15 years old, had gotten a job. According to Courtney, she took her daughter's very first paycheck against her will to pay household bills. She went even further, stating that her daughter was unhappy about this and that Courtney had threatened her with an ultimatum: either quit the job or leave the house if she didn't want to financially support her mother.
My daughter got her first paycheck today. She's been working at McDonald's for over a month now. But as you know, with your first job, they hold a check, okay? So it's been a little over 3 weeks that she's been waiting for this check, okay? It is only a 1-week check, okay? 22 hours, but she was super excited. We get to the bank. I have to show my ID to get her on my bank account. I told her she needed to sign it over to me. We cashed it. I put the cash in my wallet, and I told her how much I appreciate it and how much this is really going to help towards the bills. She looked at me like, she's like, Mom, that's my money. What are you doing? I said, honey, this has to go towards rent. You knew this. That is the whole reason you got this job, is to help Mom out. She actually thought her check was going to her. $220 she thought she was going to get to spend whatever, Lululemon, I don't know, she actually wanted. So she calls her dad. Her dad calls me. He starts screaming at me, telling me it's illegal to take her check. First of all, you live under my roof. I am the adult. I am your mother. Nothing I do when it comes to you is illegal. You live under my roof. I am the adult. I am your mother. Nothing I do when it comes to you is illegal. So that if she's not going to get any of her paychecks, she's going to quit her job or move out. Sweetheart, you're not even 16. First of all, you know you're not leaving my house. And your paychecks will be coming to me. I will rip.
What makes Courtney's case even worse is that she has absolutely lied about CPS visiting her home. In one instance, she claimed that her children are trained on how to answer CPS workers. In another video, she went even further, alleging that her youngest daughter told CPS the truth, whatever that was, and as a result, Courtney said she took away her devices and removed her bedroom door as punishment to teach her a lesson.
My kids are trained to talk to CPS, okay? We rehearse multiple times a day if CPS ever shows up, what they are supposed to say. Well, CPS showed up to our house last night for a TikTok video that was disturbing, worrisome, from back in November that had already been dealt with. Anyways, they show up. Obviously, they went and talked to all the kids, all 6 kids. All 5 kids said what they are supposed to, except my one daughter. My one daughter decided to tell them the truth. The truth. So I took her phone away. Her phone was taken. Her tablet was taken, and I took her bedroom door off the hinges last night. Well, somehow she does it on her computer. I didn't even know that you could do this. Call 911. Call 911 to tell them that her mother is being mean to her and disciplining her because for no reason. That's what she told them. No, there was a reason. There was a couple reasons, actually. So they show up to my house. Guess what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens because I am the mother. This generation is so entitled. It just blows my mind. And this is why kids are doing the things they are doing. It's because there is no discipline.
At this point, we don't genuinely believe that she treats her children in this way, but that doesn't make the situation any less concerning. If these stories are fabricated purely to go viral, then that raises serious questions about her mental state and judgment. Saying things like this online, even as rage bait, normalizes disturbing behavior and invites scrutiny that no child should be subjected to. There's also a video where Courtney claimed she refused to pick her daughter up from a sleepover at 2 a.m. because the other family had an emergency. According to her, if someone invites her child over for a sleepover, that family is responsible for her child until morning, no exceptions.
Yes, I am the mother who refused to pick up her daughter from a sleepover because her friend's family had an emergency. I will say this again. If you are a parent and your child invites my child for a sleepover overnight, that means you, the parent of that child, are responsible for my child until the next morning or until the agreed upon time for pickup. Do not call me in the middle of the night because you can't do your job as a parent. Do not call me at 2 o'clock in the morning to come get my daughter because you are a shitty parent. Period. And I will say it again and again and again. Won't happen. Not on my watch.
If you found this video disturbing, unfortunately there's more. Courtney doesn't limit her lies and shock tactics to her children, but she also drags her husband into her content. One of the most disturbing videos we came across involved serious allegations about him. In that video, Courtney claimed that her husband named their daughter after an OnlyFans creator named Sophie Rain, and implied that he is attracted to much younger girls despite being in his early 50s. She went even as far as saying that she was considering changing her daughter's name because of it.
My husband literally named our daughter after a OF creator. Now, mind you, I am just finding out about Sophie Rain. Now, when I was pregnant and he brought up the name Sophie Rain, I never asked him where it came from because I thought it was super cute. Sophie Rain, okay? I never once thought about looking the name Sophie Rain up to see who, I just never thought. I just thought maybe it's somebody in his family or he just liked the name. Well, I was just scrolling TikTok and Sophie Rain pops up. And this young girl doing this really cutesy dance. So I do some more digging. I go on my husband's phone. He is subbing to these very inappropriate pictures, okay? Not like so inappropriate, you know what I mean? But inappropriate because he's 53 years old. He's 53 years old. How old is Sophie Rain? 1920? What do I do? Should I be creeped out? Because I am creeped out. I'm gonna go to the courthouse and change my daughter's name now. This is weird. I don't even want to call her Sophie.
These are not small claims. They're deeply serious, damaging statements to make publicly, especially about someone you share children with. Whether true or not, broadcasting accusations like this for views is reckless and harmful. Watching content like this leaves you stunned. Insane is honestly the only word that fits. And yet somehow this still isn't the end of Courtney's online behavior. Because next, we have to talk about her obsession with social benefits. From the very beginning of her social media presence, Courtney has repeatedly claimed that she lives entirely off government assistance. She shares exaggerated, misleading, and often blatantly false information about social benefits. So much so that it's enough to make your blood boil. In one video, she confidently claimed that she used to receive $10,000 a month in benefits. She then went on to say that because people reported her to the relevant agencies, she now receives nothing, and as a result, her husband is supposedly kicking her out.
Don't make me drink alone. Don't make me drink alone. Hey, it's Mom.
My husband just told me and my 6 kids have 48 hours, 2 days to get out of his house. We have been together almost 10 years. He told me the only way I can stay is if I get all my welfare benefits back. He said he has stayed with me all these years because the amount of income I have brought in benefits, almost $10,000 a month. That's how much I am worth.
So do we believe she receives food stamps? Possibly. That's not an outrageous claim on its own. But do we believe she was ever receiving $10,000 a month in social benefits? Absolutely not. And once again, this is classic Courtney rage bait. You don't even have to speculate, just look at the comment sections. Viewers are visibly shocked, confused, and arguing with one another over her claims, which is exactly the reaction she wants. There are countless other videos where she spreads outright misinformation. In one, she pretends to be devastated that her EBT card no longer pays for her nail appointments and eyelash extensions. She delivers this as though it's some shocking injustice being done to her.
For anybody that receives food stamps, I just got my nails and lashes and eyebrows done, like I do every single month. You can no longer get these services with your food stamp card, with your EBT card. I have been receiving food stamps for 13 years. For 13 years, every single month, I have been able to pay with these services with my food stamps. No longer can do that. So not only do they take our sugary drinks, our junk food, okay, tobacco and alcohol you can no longer get with your food stamps. Now you can't get your nails done. I had to use cash out of pocket. $110 I just had to spend because I couldn't walk out without paying. And they do the services before you pay. So I was screwed.
Let's be clear, in case anyone is genuinely confused, EBT cards are not meant to pay for nails, lashes, or cosmetic services of any kind. That has never been their purpose. But Courtney knows exactly what she's doing here. By implying that her benefits once covered luxury expenses, she's baiting viewers into asking questions about where their tax dollars are going. And that outrage drives her engagement through the roof. This is her entire strategy. If people won't talk about her naturally, she'll make statements so absurd that they have to respond. She wants people to be angry, confused, and arguing in her comments because every reaction keeps her relevant. Unfortunately, there are plenty more videos where Courtney claims she used to receive enormous sums through social programs and lost them only because people reported her. At one point, she even claimed that food stamps used to cover alcohol and tobacco. That claim alone should tell you everything you need to know about how unreliable her stories are.
Are you kidding?
She did it!
Oh, you're done. You're done. You're grounded.
Okay, for anyone on food stamps, you can no longer buy tobacco or alcohol with your food stamp card. I just went down to the corner store to get my daily tobacco and alcohol order. Went to go swipe my food stamp card, my EBT card, and he looked at me and told me that they took the machines out of the store. So if you know a store where you have been able to get those things with your food stamps, the machines are totally wiped out of those stores. So you can no longer buy those things with your
Food stamps are strictly for food, Courtney, nothing else. Alcohol and tobacco are not food, and they've never been. Over the past couple of months, especially after blowing up on TikTok, Courtney has pushed multiple narratives about her social benefits supposedly being taken away. She's painted this dramatic picture where she was living a comfortable life entirely because of government assistance, something she insists she was fully entitled to, and now because people have allegedly reported her to DHS and other programs, she claims she's on the verge of being arrested or having all her benefits cut off. According to Courtney, this sudden downfall isn't her fault. In her version of events, it's the result of haters and viewers intentionally trying to ruin her life. This storyline has become a recurring theme in her content, and she leans into it heavily to generate sympathy, outrage, and engagement. Many people trace the start of this particular saga back to a video where Courtney claimed she had purchased angel tree gifts for a family in need, only to later find those same gifts listed on Facebook Marketplace. The story was framed as her being taken advantage of while trying to do something kind. However, viewers were quick to poke holes in the narrative. The biggest question raised in the comments was simple. Why would someone who claims to rely entirely on social benefits be buying angel tree gifts for another family? Social assistance is meant to cover basic necessities, not charitable donations. While some commenters criticized her directly, others went a step further and suggested that the entire story was fabricated. Given Courtney's long history of exaggeration and outright fabrication, many viewers found that explanation far more believable. After that, an entirely new chapter opened. Courtney began posting video after video where she complained almost constantly that people were reporting her to food stamp programs and that her benefits were getting canceled. This wasn't a one-off rant or a single emotional upload. It became a recurring theme, showing up in nearly every other video she posted. And unfortunately, it didn't stop there.
So somebody or multiple people have reported me and my husband to food stamps, to Michigan DHS, because we chose a family during Christmas time to get Christmas gifts for, the angel tree. And people on TikTok, because this is the almost only social media platform that I use and that I even posted about the angel tree on, reported to DHS that I am a TikTok creator, like I'm some big influencer, which I am not. I just started this 4 months ago, okay? I just made my first...
What? Say it.
Last month. Like, December 15th was my first check, per se, I guess, if you call it, for TikTok. And it wasn't even more than I would make it, minimum wage, a little bit more. So now I have to send in all my TikTok. Now, they're gonna cut me off.
In one particularly alarming video, Courtney claimed that her 2 youngest children were kicked out of daycare because the daycare center had seen her TikTok videos. According to her, the state had been paying for her children's daycare because she needed to get things done around the house. Let that sink in for a moment. By her own admission, she does not work, has no intention of working, yet still believes the state should cover daycare expenses so she can manage household tasks. Make that make sense.
Oh, my kids just got fired from daycare. What? So, since somebody reported me to the state of Michigan Department of Human Services, so now they are investigating my last income for the last 12 months. So my food stamps are on hold, my cash assistance, my disability, my kids' disability. And now the state has put a hold on my kids' daycare being paid for because my kids have been going to daycare so I can get stuff done around the house, because the state pays for that. So now my kids are fired from daycare. Not only that, the daycare, somebody reported to the daycare about the TikTok I made, so now they fired my kids. So now both my kids, so now I have to keep them home and try to get done because the state won't pay for it. Because I have haters.
Probably because you don't work and you're lazy.
Or I don't even know. It's got to be something from this because this has never happened to me before. So if anybody has any advice on what to do, let me know in the comments.
So according to Courtney's own logic, she shouldn't have to work, doesn't plan to work, and yet expects the government to provide disability payments, cash benefits, food assistance, and even childcare support. If this is rage bait, then she's doing an outstanding job at enraging people. Let's be very clear about that. What's also striking is how obsessively she centers her content around this food stamps drama. It's as if she's latched onto a handful of buzzwords and now uses them interchangeably, crafting new stories whenever it suits her. At one point, she claimed that she lost her food stamps because multiple people reported her, arguing that she was no longer financially eligible since she was a content creator and must be earning money from TikTok. In a follow-up video, Courtney claimed she went to Walmart to buy items using her food stamps, which she already had stated were concealed. According to her story, she purchased soda cans using her EBT card and then, for reasons she never clearly explained, poured the soda out in the Walmart parking lot. She said this caused a scene, upset bystanders, and ultimately led to people calling the police on her. The takeaway from the video, she was supposedly almost arrested in a Walmart parking lot.
I was going to Walmart like I do every week. I get food stamps, so I get between 5 and 7 24 packs of like the cheap Walmart brand pop or whatever. The ones that you get 10 cents back for every, can or whatever. And
and I use my food stamps to buy the pop, and then I go out to the parking lot and I pour them all out. This girl and her husband with their family were next to me in their car, and they freaking called the cops. The cops show up. Get out of the car! 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 As I've got like over 100 freaking Walmart pop cans all around me.
I want a goddamn liter of cola.
And they told me to stop where I was at and put my hands up. They gave me a warning. They say next time they catch me pouring Walmart pop out in the Walmart parking lot, they're going to arrest me.
Go directly to jail.
For welfare fraud. And now I'm going to lose my food stamps.
Once again, the timeline makes no sense. Her benefits were canceled, but somehow still active. She was reported, but still shopping. She was nearly arrested, but walked away. Every video introduces a new escalation while quietly undoing the claims made in the previous one. In yet another upload, Courtney alleged that people also reported her to child support services, resulting in both her and her son's disability checks being cut off. At this point, the stories were piling up so quickly that it became impossible to tell which version of events she wanted people to believe.
Not only has somebody reported me to DHS because I'm making money on TikTok, somebody has reported me to disability for me, my husband, and my son, and they have also reported me to child support. So what happens with the child support? So if one of my children's fathers owes me money, it goes down because now I'm making more money than I was?
Correct.
So now I have to do a whole new, like, child support packet because now I'm making more money than I was 4 months ago. TikTok might be going away in a month. I don't understand why people are hating on me so much. It is ridiculous. So now I have lost my food stamps, my cash assistance. Now I'm losing my disability, my son's disability, my 3-year-old son.
You shouldn't have been talking shit.
This will literally be my second month making money on TikTok.
Ironically, this may be the closest she's come to telling the truth. It's entirely possible that she started all of this for clout, only to later realize that there are real-world consequences to loudly broadcasting financial claims online. If people believed she was earning money through TikTok, reporting that income to the relevant agencies wouldn't be shocking at all. And judging by her visibly shocked reactions in these videos, Courtney may finally be realizing that rage bait doesn't stay confined to the internet. Eventually, it catches up with you. What's disturbing is that there are many people across the United States who genuinely believe they can, or should, live off government assistance for their entire lives. Some intentionally avoid working because the moment they start earning, the state may require them to report income, contribute to health care, pay child support, or repay certain benefits. And for people with this mindset, that responsibility is something they actively try to escape. And that appears to be exactly what happened in Courtney's case, at least based on her own telling of events. In her subsequent videos, Courtney began narrating how Social Security was supposedly investigating her situation. She even claimed that officials wanted to verify whether all of her children were biologically hers. Given her long history of exaggeration and outright lies on TikTok, it wouldn't be surprising if social workers had questions about the accuracy of her claims. When someone publicly contradicts themselves as often as Courtney does, scrutiny becomes inevitable.
Got another letter from DHS because whoever has reported me to now DHS, disability, Social Security, IRS, child support, whoever it is that's doing this, is making my life a living hell, okay? Now I have to prove that all 6 of my children are mine. So birth certificate, Social Security cards, school records, a front of the court, paperwork.
Even in the middle of this chaos, Courtney did not stop lying to her audience. At one point, she claimed that police had shown up at her house to arrest her. She posted multiple TikToks with dramatic clickbait captions suggesting that officers were knocking on her door and that she was on her way to jail. By this stage, people were questioning absolutely everything she said. On one hand, she insisted that her social benefits had been cut off because she was under investigation. On the other, she would upload videos claiming those same benefits had been reinstated, just at a lower amount. Then suddenly, she'd appear on TikTok alleging that her landlord was evicting her, or that her husband was kicking her out because she no longer had any income. Her TikTok had turned into a full-blown circus. Every other video contradicted the last, and viewers were left trying to piece together a story that simply didn't add up. Recently, though, Courtney appears to be attempting some form of accountability, at least on the surface. She quietly removed her old bio and replaced it with a new one reading, Daily Toxic Battles, Recovery and Mental Health, Mom to 6. It looks like she's trying to rebrand herself now that she's amassed over 500,000 followers on the platform. She's also posted a few videos apologizing for rage-baiting her audience. According to Courtney, she's now in a phase of recovery and wants to show viewers who the real Courtney is. In one of these videos, she admitted that when her first rage-bait post unexpectedly went viral, she didn't stop to think about the consequences. Instead, she kept uploading more extreme content to gain traction and make money. However, she also acknowledged that this behavior led to intense backlash. People hating her, reporting her, and even contacting CPS. That, she claims, is what finally forced her to step back and reflect. According to Courtney, she realized that her actions may have been wrong, and that she could have been taking resources and attention away from children who genuinely needed help.
This is another apology video, so if you don't want to hear me say sorry, once again, you can just scroll. If I have to apologize every single day, if I have to make 20 videos a day to get to everybody, for everybody to see this, to see my apology, I will. When I first started TikTok, which was last September, my plan was not to hurt anybody. I didn't get on this app and my main goal was to hurt anybody, okay? I made one food stamp video. It took off. It got me to over 10,000 followers in less than 24 hours, okay? Then I started monetizing off that video. And it took off. It just went from there, okay? My rage bait was over. Okay, there's rage bait. There's not harmful rage bait, and then there's rage bait that could hurt a lot of people. Okay, I was way up here. I went way beyond any boundary, and I apologize. I am not making any excuse for it. Okay, not only did I hurt a lot of people on the internet, I have hurt creators on this app by using their names in my videos when I had no permission to. I've hurt my kids. I've hurt other innocent kids because people went real life by believing my videos and called CPS. Now, CPS was only called one time, or at least CPS only showed up to my house one time. But that one time was enough, because that is now taking resources away from children that actually need help. That was it. I was done. I haven't posted any rage bait in over 30 days. I am so sorry. If I could go back and redo it all, I would. I just want you all to give me a second chance. That's all I ask. Just give me 10 minutes of your time. Come in my live stream and just sit there for 10 minutes. You don't have to say anything. Try to get to know the real me. That's all I ask. You don't have to like me. I just ask, just give me another chance.
Whether this rebrand is sincere or just another chapter remains to be seen, but the damage from her rage baiting has already been done. For the past couple of months, Courtney has posted multiple videos like this, attempting to explain herself and walk back her past behavior. But the internet is not ready to forgive her yet. She's even mentioned in her TikToks that although she's stopped being a rage bait creator, people continue to criticize and hate on her. And honestly, that reaction shouldn't surprise anyone. When you spread months dragging innocent creators into the mud, spreading blatant misinformation, and saying some of the most offensive things imaginable online, it's not easy for people to suddenly believe that you're genuinely remorseful. For many viewers, the damage she caused is already done. Apologies don't automatically erase the harm, especially when that harm was repeated, intentional, and publicly monetized. A large portion of her audience also believes that this sudden shift in tone isn't about growth, it's about rebranding. After months of rage baiting, Courtney now appears to want support for what she calls her smile journey, and by now most viewers have probably noticed that her teeth are in poor condition. In one of her videos, she explained that she previously struggled with addiction, which caused her upper teeth to deteriorate and eventually fall out. She revealed that she had applied to a smile makeover program but wasn't selected. Shortly after, she uploaded a bitter video accusing the organizers of mismanagement and unfairness, while she repeatedly insisted that she wasn't speaking about herself specifically and claimed she was more upset for other applicants who deserved it more. Many viewers didn't buy that explanation. To them, it came across as sour grapes.
This is my official submission video for the smile makeover that Hannah Banana, Dr. Frankania, and Ponce Dental Studio is doing at the end of this year. I am 35 years old, and my teeth started rotting out of my face about 7 years ago. I have struggled with mental health my whole life, and I have struggled with addiction. I also have 6 beautiful babies. A lack of oral hygiene, my drug addiction, and my struggle with mental health has brought me here. I can't brush my teeth without my gums bleeding. I can't eat most things because I have so many exposed nerves. Everything is painful. I can't go to bed at night without popping 3 Tylenols because of the pain. I have no health insurance. This will change my life in more ways than I could ever put into words. I have an anxiety attack every time I have to walk out this door and show my face. This mirror is my absolute worst enemy. I can't stand to look at myself. I can't take pictures with my kids. My kids can't introduce me to their friends without being embarrassed. I am begging you to please help me. Please help me change my life. Please, I've been sober for 8 years now. And I think it's time I get a second chance at life. If you've made it this far, thank you.
Listen, I'm not going to apologize for stating how I feel about this whole smile makeover, okay? Everybody is entitled to their opinion, okay? You may call me a sore loser, being petty, childish, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not even upset about me not getting the top 25. I knew I wasn't going to make it to the top 25. But there are girls that entered that literally have bleeding gums, bleeding, swollen gums, bones of teeth stuck inside their gums. No dentures, no snap-on veneers, nothing. That poured their heart and soul into these submission videos, followed all the rules, okay, and weren't included in the top 25. Weren't considered. That's what I'm upset about. I'm upset that people that have already raised money for their dental work, $3,000 worth, were considered.
I'm upset that people that already have top and bottom dentures, their teeth are fine, were considered. I'm upset that people that really just need some whitening were considered. And I'm also upset that nobody over the age of 40 was considered in the top 20. Okay, this is my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. I think it's wrong the way it was handled. This whole thing was very disorganized from the very beginning. I'm not going to apologize for it. You can hate me, you can like me, but there are girls that entered that really deserve this. And that's who I'm advocating for. I'm speaking for them.
After being rejected from the Smile Makeover program, Courtney shifted her approach. She turned to her followers directly, asking them to support her financially. According to her, if each follower sent just $1 via Cash App, she could finally begin her smile journey. She even went as far as tagging Mr. Beast and encouraging viewers to ask him to help fund her dental work. At this point, her desperation is painfully obvious, but the bigger question remains. How does she expect people to support her now after she spent so long manipulating and enraging them on purpose? You can't build trust by rage baiting and then suddenly ask for compassion and money when it suits you. If Courtney genuinely wanted support, she could have chosen honesty from the beginning, sharing her real struggles, her real life, and allowing an audience to grow organically. Instead, it's only been a matter of weeks since she started apologizing, and now she expects people to forget months of chaos and open their wallets to fund her personal journey. That's not accountability, that's entitlement. And remember when we said that people are not exactly done with her online? That wasn't an exaggeration. Viewers haven't forgotten how Courtney tried to discredit other creators through her videos, dragging them into controversy for attention. Eventually, that behavior triggered what can only be described as full revenge mode from parts of the internet. One creator in particular, Nicole Boymom, decided to dig into Courtney's past, and what she uncovered shocked a lot of people. According to information shared publicly by this creator, Courtney's father is a registered sex offender. While that revelation alone is disturbing, what truly pushed people over the edge was what came next. Viewers began looking through Courtney's old Facebook posts and found photos allegedly showing her father casually spending time around her children. Pictures of him being present around them, interacting normally as if there were no concerns at all. To many people watching this unfold, this wasn't just about rage bait anymore. It painted a picture of someone who, at best, showed alarming judgment as a parent. At that point, a lot of viewers felt that while rage baiting, lying, and online manipulation are awful, this crossed an entirely different line. People were no longer just angry, they were genuinely horrified that she would allow a registered sex offender to be around her children. That discovery changed the entire conversation around Courtney overnight. Nicole later shared a clipping from an old article, which stated the following. Michael L. 39 pleaded no contest to 2 counts of second-degree criminal conduct involving a victim at least 13 years of age but under 16 between June and September at Millington Township. A pre-sentence investigation was ordered and bond was continued for $5,000. Sentencing is to be set. Reading that alone is sickening. The most heartbreaking and disturbing part is the age of the victim, just 13 years old. And naturally, people began asking the same question over and over again. How could Courtney allow this man anywhere near her children? For many viewers, there were only 2 possible explanations. Either she genuinely believes that her father never committed these crimes, or she knows what he did and simply doesn't care. Neither option reflects well on her. Instead, it raises serious concerns about her priorities and judgment as a parent. After this information began circulating widely, people started confronting Courtney directly. She went live multiple times to address the accusations. According to her, her father had paid his dues, and therefore, in her eyes, the situation was supposedly resolved. But that explanation only raised more questions.
Already bringing back the first one. Like they think I'm going to deny it. It's my dad. It's not me. He paid his dues. Okay, that was 20 years ago? 20 years ago, but it has nothing to do with me, besides he's my father, and he's a great father.
He paid his dues. I'm sorry, but registered offenders never pay their dues. Their dues would be for it to happen to them. Their dues would be for them to pass away. Other things, sure, you could pay your dues and now we can accept you back into society or back into the family, but not this. This is something that cannot be forgiven.
What does paid his dues even mean in this context? If someone has been convicted of sexual crimes involving a minor, there's no amount of time or punishment that erases the harm done to the victim. There's no repayment that makes such persons suddenly safe to be around children. And yet Courtney appeared comfortable, suggesting that because time had passed, her father should be accepted back into normal life, including access to young kids. That alone deeply disturbed viewers. Another creator, Jessica Bailey, later reached out to Courtney during one of her live streams in an attempt to get her to directly address the situation in a clearer, more accountable way. During that exchange, Courtney made statements that left many people with the impression that she either believes her father is innocent or is unwilling to publicly acknowledge what he did out of fear of backlash.
Who's they? I knew this was going to happen. Jessica, who's they? Is it just one person?
You already know I'm not snitching on Nicole.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's obviously, it's out there. I knew this was going to happen. I just didn't know it was going to happen like this. Okay. I was 16 years old. Okay. Actually, I might have been even younger when this happened. Okay. I don't know exactly what happened. I was a child. So I don't know if it really happened. I just know he did some jail time. I just know he got put on a list. And now we are still, us kids, like me and my siblings, are suffering more than my dad, I think, ever did. Okay, we're the ones that are having to.
Her dad was arrested. The charge says 2007. So if she was 16 in 2007, that means she's younger than me by a few years because I turned 18 in 2005. But I digress. I notice how you've had all this time. You could have looked up your dad's charges by now and find out what he did if your family didn't want to inform you.
After watching the clip, many came away convinced that Courtney was being deliberately evasive. She didn't firmly condemn the crimes. She didn't center the victim. In fact, she even suggested that she didn't know whether the abuse had truly happened. That response alone speaks volumes. Even if Courtney was underage when these events occurred, she's an adult now. She had the opportunity to speak the truth, acknowledge the harm done, and take steps to protect her own children. The fact that she has never once publicly acknowledged the 13-year-old victim or expressed concern for child safety has only fueled people's outrage. At the end of the day, Courtney's story is a perfect example of how destructive rage bait culture has become online. Rage bait doesn't exist in a vacuum. It doesn't just create comments and views. It creates misinformation, harassment, real-world consequences, and long-lasting harm. When creators intentionally provoke outrage for profit, they lose control of where that outrage goes. And as we've seen in Courtney's case, once the internet turns on you, there is no off switch. In our opinion, rage baiting is one of the most irresponsible content strategies on social media. It rewards dishonesty, amplifies the loudest and most offensive voices, and punishes nuance and truth. Courtney didn't just rage bait in abstract ways, she dragged real people into her stories, spread serious allegations, and normalized saying anything for attention. Whether or not she regrets it now, the damage has already been done. And then there's this situation involving her father. This is where things go beyond internet drama and become deeply disturbing. Regardless of how Courtney personally feels, allowing someone with that history around children is not something that can be brushed off with the "he paid his dues." The lack of accountability, the refusal to center the victim, and the defensiveness surrounding the issue are, in our opinion, the most alarming parts of this entire story. So now we want to hear from you. What do you think about Courtney and her rebrand? Do you believe she's genuinely sorry, or just pivoting because rage bait stopped working? Do you think people who repeatedly spread misinformation and harm others should continue to have a platform? And where do we draw the line between content and real-world responsibility? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future deep dives. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Say, Mommy is pregnant! Yes, Mommy's pregnant!
Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, you're gonna have to wait, no!
I don't know.
I can't partake in sin, so I said I will not pull out. I will not do anything that is going to prevent God from giving us life.
Mothers who do not give an absolute shit for their children and continuously put their babies' faces out in the world for these
My kids saw my stomach and they just died laughing. They were squeezing it like slime. I am currently possibly still pregnant with a miscarriage baby. It was a cute moment with me and my children. I didn't think anybody would even watch it. And we cannot find anywhere in the Bible that gives us permission to choose to prevent, sterilize.
Did God really command every parent to keep reproducing until they've created the size of a soccer team? Well, this TikTok mom, Carissa Collins, believes so.
It's literally in the Bible. But that is what we believe. And so we encourage women and families, not just women, but families, to trust God with however many children He wants to give.
She took the word "be fruitful and multiplied" 11 times, giving birth to 7 girls and 4 boys.
Say, Mommy is pregnant!
While some parents might set their dream family to 2 or 3 kids, people like Carissa hope to create an army. This is just like the Nickelodeon cartoon series The Loud House, which also features a large family of 11 children. We've seen them in other unique families, like the Rodriguez family with their 13 kids.
Adherent to the Prince of Evil.
And the Duggar family from TLC's show 19 and Counting.
We're the Duggars. That's me. I'm Michelle. There's Jim Bob, my wonderful husband, and our children.
However, with the Collins, it's more intense than you can imagine because Carissa is a nutcase. This is a mother who let her children beat her stomach when she had miscarried.
The problem is you have given all this information out on TikTok. Everybody knows what has happened with this child. You then post a video with your other kids slapping and punching a belly that has a deceased.
Carissa is the brains behind her family's TikTok account, The Collins Kids, which has 1 million followers. Her husband, Mandre Collins, features as a background character, along with their 11 children and counting. Carissa really has a hard time convincing the internet that she's a good mom with the way she uses her own kids for social media content. She built her entire platform around one belief, that God is the one who decides when families can stop having kids. And she believes that any attempt to prevent pregnancy through birth control, condoms, or even pulling out is a sin.
Is that the Bible is true, and we cannot find anywhere in the Bible that gives us permission to choose to prevent, sterilize, or...
This woman has pulled all forms of crazy stunts on the internet. She made her kids hit her pregnant belly, which, quite sickeningly, was carrying a dead fetus. And it doesn't end there. Carissa proudly teaches that poor people should have kids as much as they like because poverty is no excuse, and she doesn't believe in prenatal care or vaccinations. This story is so disturbing that it would leave you wondering how such a mother is running loose on the internet. We're talking about major child negligence. This is a mother who would post videos of her injured kids. And she doesn't even take her 11 kids to school. For her, homeschooling is a divine instruction from God.
And I decided to homeschool, first of all, because
She's not worried about the fact that not sending her kids to school might limit their social interactions and make them awkward among their peers, as she's also claimed that God had performed multiple miracles in her family. Maybe her faith in God is more powerful than others, including a case where she was healed of multiple sclerosis for obeying his word. However, she's also been kicked out of the hospital for scream praying, which was basically her screaming and praying for a baby in the antenatal ward. And the story only gets darker from there. How did this TikTok mom become a notorious name on the internet? What are the harmful philosophies she teaches her kids and supporters? And most importantly, where's her husband, Mandre, in all these controversies? Because his quiet attitude, along with Chris's overbearing behavior, really creates a recipe for disaster for their 11 children. Grab your popcorn as we enter the terrifying world of Carissa Collins.
There's a dark side to these massive families going viral. And nobody's gonna talk about it, so I will. It's not just the matching outfit. It's not just the choreographed Bible verses. It's the emotional neglect disguised as tradition. There are kids being raised by their siblings.
So who are the Collins? Well, Carissa Collins isn't your average mom influencer. She's married to Mandre Collins, and together they've created a soccer team, 11 children and counting. Now, from the looks of it, Mandre seems to be on board with this family planning system.
You need to be happy.
I don't know. How much stuff is there?
And it would make sense, though, since he's partly responsible for the family tree he and Chris are currently sprouting.
Gonna get one, all right? It's just one, all right? How bad could one be? It's not that expensive. It's not, well, I mean, I have to get it a friend, right? I mean, who's he gonna talk to? He's gonna get bored. And you know, what if they get sick of each other? You know, they need a third guy. And honestly, I have 3.
Also, he's been working in auto finance for 15 years and owns a basketball company called Kingdom Hoops. This shows that their family's finances are somewhat moderate, and it's why they can afford the fine clothes and photo shoots they post on social media. On the surface, their TikTok presence seems like any other large family content. It's cute and playfully chaotic, and the overall aesthetic could really have you wishing you were part of the fun. Their most viral video, which hit a staggering 46 million views and 2 million likes, is basically the family showcasing their year of birth.
You wanna put a ring on my finger?
This is just to show you a glimpse of what makes them interesting to watch on social media. The Collins family somehow manages to capture attention through their family information.
Nope. 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 Yep.
Another similar example is this other viral video of them where Carissa and Mandre reveal how old they were when they had each of their children.
The good times go by too fast. Yeah, I wish time would take a little slower. Sometimes.
This video amassed over 41 million views and 1.1 million likes. Now, having a large family isn't exactly problematic. Plenty of people grew up in big families and turned out fine. Take Kevin from Home Alone, for instance.
What else could we be forgetting?
Kevin!
Despite being neglected a handful of times, he still managed to take care of himself better than most kids out there. Aside from their huge numbers, the Collins family were notable for something else: their racially diverse kids. Carissa possesses beautiful white skin with blue eyes, and Mandre is a tall, dark, and handsome man. Together, their kids are a blend of tanned skin, blue and brown eyes. Commenters always adored this feature. Furthermore, the children have unique names. All 11 of them have names starting with the letter A. Carissa shared her family's naming culture on social media, and it's by far the most interesting part of the story. Their firstborn and first daughter, Anissa, was inspired by a show that they had watched before she was born. The second child, a boy, was named Andre, which was just his father's name minus the letter M. And just like that, the naming culture remained spontaneous. After their third child, Anistan, Carissa claimed that God started directly telling her what to name her children. Through this revelation, names like Angel, Answer, Anchor, Anderson, Anthem, Armor, and Arrow came into the picture, and their kids were stuck with them. together with their middle names and the last name Collins, Carissa and her husband ensured that the kids bore similar initials, ABC for girls and ACC for boys. And that's about the only fun area this family has. Beyond just the sheer number of kids and their skin tone, the Collins family also represents one of the internet's most notorious cases of child exploitation. That's because before their TikTok fame, Carissa Collins had been documenting her children's lives since their infancy.
Come on, Anthem.
Here you go, baby. Anchor, move.
Anchor's gonna catch her.
She did this on YouTube, where she retains almost 200 followers. On this platform, Carissa posted videos of her babies as far back as 2011. Carissa has always posted her children on the internet for the world to see.
Joking, didn't quite know what was to come.
Fast forward to 2025, this pattern of posting content with her children has become her brand. If you scroll through all her social media accounts, you'll only see the familiar faces of the Collins kids and nothing else. Even her personal Facebook page serves as a general family page with close to 2 million followers. However, Carissa doesn't seem to be aware of her exploitative tendencies. She uses her children to gain likes on social media and doesn't even realize it. And honestly, with the controversies surrounding her, many people easily overlook her internet branding style. Carissa Collins has to be one of the most problematic moms on TikTok right now. This is because she has strong religious beliefs, and these beliefs have endangered innocent lives and put this family at the face of one of TikTok's most controversial accounts today. Speaking of controversies, this is one of Carissa's most disturbing cases. Carissa posted a video of her children slapping and squeezing her stomach. They were playing with it like a stress ball, laughing and having fun, not knowing that it wasn't normal. It could be interpreted as a cute family moment, right? Except Carissa's stomach contained a deceased baby. Yes, you heard that right. At the time the video was posted, Carissa knew the baby no longer had a heartbeat. This was her most recent pregnancy, the one that could have been baby number 12. But none of this matters to her because in her journey to motherhood, Carissa had experienced 4 miscarriages, and she posted the updates on her social media accounts. Here's one example. In this Facebook post, she explained that she was in the middle of a miscarriage. It was a rough weekend. I ended up in the ER and am unfortunately in the middle of a miscarriage. Thank you for your celebrations and prayers. We're blessed to have Yahuwah as our comfort and will be taking a few days off. Oh, and by the way, Yahuwah is what she calls God. It's a different word from Yahweh, the Hebrew translation, and she always spells it in that way in all her posts. Have this at the back of your mind as we proceed. So moving on, Carissa always keeps her followers updated on her pregnancy. It just so happens that the most recent one broke the internet. It was the one which occurred sometime around July of 2025. After the video received a lot of backlash, Carissa quickly deleted it. Then, on August 7th, about 3 weeks after the incident, she posted a final update on her pregnancy on Facebook. Clipped with what she claimed was the only surviving photo of this pregnancy, Carissa explained the tragic event. The baby died around 7 weeks, but at 20 weeks my body still wouldn't miscarry the baby, so I had a D&C yesterday. I have an amazing doctor that did a great job. It appeared the sac was stuck. I've spent months processing and grieving this baby, and I waited 13 weeks until I went ahead with the surgery. We are ready to move on and praising God that my body is still healthy and whole. For reference, a D&C is a medical procedure that involves removing tissue from the inside the uterus. At the time of making the video, Carissa had been carrying the miscarriage in the hopes that her body would naturally expel the pregnancy.
Hey guys, so I'm just making hopefully a quick video because I've tried to do this before and it was 30 minutes long, trying to make it a little bit quicker. So ignore my hair, not done, we're going swimming later. Anyway, I wanted to talk about a video.
But when this didn't happen, the doctors resorted to D&C. This was quite an unfortunate situation. It's painful for any mother, even Carissa, despite this being her 15th pregnancy in a row. But the problem here is, why post the moment online? Especially for millions to see. From the comments, you'd know that a lot of users were triggered by the video. Their words were unforgiving. A lot of people told Carissa that this might be her big sign from God to let her body rest. But Carissa, being who she is, didn't care for anyone's opinions. These were genuine concerns about what happens when you get pregnant excessively without allowing your body to heal between pregnancies. Carissa had been pregnant a total of 15 times. This video was from 2024 when she was expecting her baby Arrow, her current last-born. During this period, Carissa had suffered 3 miscarriages, and less than a year after Arrow's birth, she took in again. Anyone could see that she had an addiction at this point.
Carissa Collins, the Collins family, right? It's a white woman, a black man, and they're on their 12th child. Once you start hitting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you're either addicted to making babies or you see babies as easy money / content.
And it didn't just end with pregnancy addiction. The main problem was that Carissa wasn't putting herself out there as a good mother, exposing your kids to the world of dead fetuses, and doing content about how you and your husband don't use protection doesn't necessarily earn you a gold medal in parenting. To make matters worse, Carissa told the internet in a now deleted Instagram post that her daughter Anderson had tried to resurrect the baby. In other words, her daughter tried to raise the baby from the dead. Carissa wrote, "With a heavy yet grateful heart, I deliver this news. I had a sonogram today and got to see our sweet baby. There's no longer a heartbeat. You don't understand how much you love someone until they're gone. My body doesn't have any signs of miscarriage. Everything looks great except a missing heartbeat. I came home and told my children, and Anderson immediately prayed for a resurrection. Nothing is impossible for Yahuwah, so until my body passes this baby, we will believe for that." Let that sink in. Carissa made her children, young children from ages 2 to 9 who don't fully understand death, believe that they had control over the life of a dead fetus. Can you imagine the bad mental orientation it gives a child who hasn't even clocked 10 years old yet? This is where Carissa's ideology becomes genuinely harmful. Because it's one thing to have religious beliefs yourself. It's another thing entirely to force those beliefs, like the power of resurrection, onto children as young as 2 years old, who don't have the capacity to consent or understand its implications. Carissa had made her kids hit her pregnant belly and told them to pray for the dead fetus. What kind of parent does that? The miscarriage video really struck a lot of nerves. It left TikTokers angry and calling it disturbing. It feels like she wanted them to punish the fetus for miscarrying. Their angel sibling in there, and she's encouraging them to hit it. It's so disturbing. She's encouraging this strange behavior. She told those innocent babies to do that. It was just a thunderstorm of outrage for anyone who came across Carissa Collins and her trending story. And it was only when the backlash became so intense that Carissa made a response video. It was 18 minutes long and contained more justification for her actions. Carissa started off with a brief word of apology.
First thing I want to say is I apologize. When I posted that video, what's on other people's minds was not on.
Then the whole direction of the video completely spiraled into something more disturbing. That's because Carissa first claimed that it was a cute moment for her and her kids, and she had no idea people would watch it.
It was a cute moment with me and my children. I didn't think anybody would even watch it.
This statement is quite funny considering she has 1 million followers across their social media accounts who would have actually seen the video. And here's where it gets interesting. Carissa claimed that she didn't post content to gain followers, and her only purpose was to spread God's words and encourage women to trust Him with their wombs.
I'm not all about a following. I just am simply here to share the message that God has given me and the ministry that I have, which is just encouraging women that you can trust God with your womb, that you can rely on Him to give you His blessings in children, and what I believe the Bible says about that. People find that offensive, dangerous, disgusting, and disturbing, and I don't know why. So let me just quickly address what my theology is, because, I mean, if that's the word you want to use, people are saying my theology is messed up. This is what we believe. We believe that all life is from God, that He knows you before He forms you in the womb, that children are a blessing and a gift.
She blatantly seized the opportunity of apology to double down on her religious beliefs, and that's really how the rest of the video goes. Carissa only talks about her viewpoint on the pregnancy, from her experience and her biblical interpretations.
We believe that all life is from God, that He knows you before He forms you in the womb, that children are a blessing and a gift.
Notice how quickly this went from "I'm sorry for upsetting people" to "let me preach about why my beliefs are correct." Classic deflection technique. And this is not even the end of Carissa Collins' saga, because by keeping this miscarriage issue aside, her name had spread all around for yet another intriguing story, her miracle list. Carissa made a post on Instagram about a list of miracles God had bestowed on her family. Now, this was an image of a frame she had custom made and hung on her family's wall in their house, and it contained a list of incidents that she believed had worked out perfectly fine due to God's intervention. The post is deleted now because, as usual, it was quite unsettling. You won't believe what the tablet was all about. On one hand, it contained some harmless details like family unity, God's grace with their family size, the safe deliveries she had always had with her children, and many more instances that would make the average family thank God at church. However, on the other hand, the tablet contained some disturbing things that could land child protective services at their doorstep. Carissa wrote a handful of other disturbing miracles. According to her, one of her children had their hand broken, and after fasting and praying together, it healed completely. One child had 2 broken wrists and was healed by God. Another child had a broken leg, healed by God, and she herself had been healed of broken ribs. Furthermore, in another Facebook post, she also outlined these cases, along with her healing from multiple sclerosis just because she obeyed God's word. Can you believe that? These cases are shocking. First, let's consider how often the children are suffering from fractures in the family. This isn't a regular occurrence. Then, as if that wasn't bad enough, Carissa basically claimed that her children had been healed by God. This meant that their healing was supernatural and no medical intervention had taken place. But this is unsettling no matter how you look at it. The concerning thing about this list isn't that Carissa believed in miracles. People can believe whatever they want about divine intervention. The main disturbing factor is what's implied, that she didn't seek proper medical care for her children, that she relied on prayer instead of doctors, that she waited for divine healing instead of setting bones and casts. If the children were not healed and it was too late for medical intervention, they would have suffered serious repercussions. At worst, the children would have been in heaven with their maker. Carissa was truly putting her children in danger, and she was showing it to the world through this disturbing post. As you probably guessed it, no one on social media was comfortable with it. So many kids with injuries. The plural broken wrists and bones is gut-wrenching. It's nice of her to keep a record of her children's mistreatment and literally hang it on her wall. Carissa had no idea that she had publicized her negligence to the internet, and although she deleted the post soon after, it still remained on platforms like Reddit for the world to see and remember. And sadly, her story hasn't even reached its peak at this point. Sadly, with Carissa, there's always new incidents to top the old. Still on the topic of her extreme religious beliefs, here's one that might leave you completely baffled. Carissa's habit of scream praying, which basically entails praying while screaming at the top of her lungs. Here's a graphical example.
Wherever you are, all I need you to shout is "Let's fight."
It's one of the many cases Carissa has chosen religion over medical intervention for her children. In one particular Instagram post, Carissa shared an unsettling experience with her daughter, Anthem. Anthem was sick. She had a fever and was vomiting. But instead of taking her to a hospital for a proper medical evaluation, Carissa did the unthinkable. She started scream praising along with her children. Yesterday, Anthem started puking everywhere, all over me, all afternoon. She got a small fever and was lethargic. I immediately was filled with fear, debilitating fear. Instead of sitting in my fear, I decided to start praying and praising with all of my children. We spent 2+ hours screaming praise, and Anthem was immediately healed. While we sang, she danced, played, ate, and drank, and all of my children were screaming praises. It was life-giving. Fear left. And she ended this story with some powerful statements. This is how we overcome. This is victory. God is faithful, and sometimes a simple prayer isn't enough. While some religious people who share similar beliefs with her might agree, there's something about this situation that seems very problematic. Carissa never indicated that there was a follow-up medical check, and frankly, no one would expect that from a mother who kept records of the multiple times her children's broken bones were miraculously healed. Carissa's behavior towards healthcare, especially for her children, is truly concerning. Sicknesses are our body's way of telling the world that there's a problem within that needs to be checked. But Carissa, as a mother, keeps ignoring these signs for her kids. If they suffered from serious fractures and had not visited the doctor who would run proper scans and prescribe proper medication, it could become life-threatening one day. Anthem's battle with her health is a big example of this. Apart from this incident where Carissa used scream praying to cure Anthem's fever, there was another case where she was completely negligent as a mother. This is the case where Anthem had a urinary tract infection, UTI.
She one day woke up with a crick in her neck, and I thought nothing of it. The next day, her entire body shut down. She became limp. She couldn't hold her head up. She couldn't smile. Out of nowhere, no signs other than she kind of wouldn't drink or eat much, although she was 11 months old.
Carissa made a video explaining that Anthem, when she was 11 months old, ended up in the ICU twice from an untreated UTI that went septic.
From a silent UTI. She pretty much died in my arms on day 2. It was the most horrific thing I've ever been through.
The first explanation came in a 45-minute long live stream, where she detailed every aspect of Anthem's illness. A Redditor also provided a transcript of this live stream. And before we head down this road, bear in mind that what you're about to uncover is completely heartbreaking. So the story began on a Friday night before a basketball game. Carissa noted that 11-month-old Anthem's head was slouched over when she was bathing her that night. According to Carissa's own description in a subsequent video, Anthem had a 99-degree fever and wasn't eating much.
Friday night, she had a 99-degree fever. She was still eating.
Now, a sensible mother would try to break the fever or would at least be a bit concerned to understand what was happening to their baby. But what did Carissa do? She waved it off without a second thought. Her next words in regards to this situation will hit like a bullet wound.
When your child has a low-grade fever, you don't just rush them to the ER. You just let them rest and let whatever virus that they have.
Can you imagine that? Carissa Collins basically said she would give room to whatever virus or sickness that was striking her kid. The manner in which she made such a statement is truly annoying and insensitive. This was her child we're talking about, not some random lab rat. Yet Carissa didn't move a muscle until the next morning, the day for her son's basketball game. At this time, she claimed that Anthem was a burst of energy. She was laughing and playing as if the 99-degree fever never happened the night before.
So we didn't think that much of it. Saturday morning, she woke up. She didn't have a fever. She was standing, playing, acting.
But here's where things get a little more irritating. Carissa noticed another warning sign with Anthem on the way to the basketball match. The 11-month-old baby suddenly lost complete control of her muscles, couldn't hold her head up, wouldn't lift her legs, her face drooped with no expressions.
My son's basketball game on Saturday, and my mom came, and it was like as soon as we pulled up to the basketball game, she seemed like she struggled holding her head up. Never seen that in a child, never heard of that. And so I was a little concerned, but at 11 months old,
Now, any normal parent would have immediately rushed the child to the hospital. But Carissa, she didn't think anything of it. In fact, she went for lunch. That's right. In the 45-minute live stream she recorded the way before this semi-sugar-coated YouTube video, Carissa had told her audience that they went for lunch after noticing her daughter's weird behavior. The family sat for the game, and as soon as it was over, Carissa claimed that she tried to feed her some juice. Visiting the hospital had still not crossed her mind at this point.
As soon as the game was over, I took her to get some juice to see if she would drink more. And
it was only when Anthem refused to drink that Carissa finally took her to the hospital. And here's where the situation started to get messy.
Fever. You don't just rush them to the ER. You just let them rest and let whatever virus that they have run its course. So we didn't think that much of it. Saturday morning, she woke up. She didn't have a fever. She was standing, playing, acting normal. We went to my son's basketball game on Saturday, and my mom came, and it was like as soon as we pulled up to the basketball game, she seemed like she struggled holding her head up. Never seen that in a child, never heard of that. And so I was a little concerned, but at 11 months old, they're a little shaky. She had learned how to walk at 10 months old, so she was normally very active. She just wanted me to hold her, and she did struggle to smile at my mom. It's like she lost the function of her face. And so as soon as the game was over, I took her to get some juice to see if she would drink more. And she wasn't drinking, so I took her straight to urgent care. Urgent care looked at her and said she needs to go to Cook's. So I took her straight to Cook's, And I'm telling you, like, she was declining rapidly.
Anthem fought for her life at the hospital while Carissa still held on to prayer. But you see, the problem with Carissa and religion is that she always takes things to extremes. Instead of quietly praying for the best, she devolved into one of her usual courses of action, scream praying, and this time in the ICU where other sick babies were kept. Carissa laid hands on Anthem and screamed prayers over her head. She said it was the boldest thing she had ever done. Carissa's religious attitude really didn't make her Mother of the Year. Every decision she made during this point of her daughter's battle between life and death was completely unreasonable. Praying loudly in the ICU had to be the most insensitive. The hospital isn't a place of worship. People heal there. The quiet environment is very important for recovery, especially in places like the NICU where babies are kept. But Carissa was too blinded by her beliefs to see how harmful her behavior was. At a point, she even began to think that God might have wanted Anthem as a sacrifice, just like Abraham and his son Isaac in the Bible. In such a distressing situation, Carissa thought of a sermon on divine sacrifice, when her 11-month-old daughter was busy fighting for a chance to stay alive. This behavior calls into question what kind of a mother Carissa was. Was she raising an army just to spread her own beliefs on faith, or were her children simply for views? Because for Carissa to willingly give up on her child, it's hard to believe that she truly valued their lives. Sure, Carissa had accepted all possible outcomes somewhere in her spirit, but this was not keeping the family stronger, like she urged the kids to pray for baby Anthem. Her eldest son Andre was still hopeful. He posted a video concerning his sister's case, and mind you, it's truly heartbreaking to watch.
Because it's like with my baby sister in the hospital. I couldn't see that she was getting better. She looked the same. But God was working inside of her. God was healing her body.
You can see how conflicted he was. He sounded like he was trying to convince himself with the words he was speaking.
So like if God told me that my sister's gonna be okay, but her face is turning purple and she blacked out, she's gonna be okay. That's because that's what God said. And you have to have faith and stand on his word.
Andre's words are awe-inspiring, but you can hear the undertone of worry and confusion in his voice. Anthem's situation was devastating for anyone, and this is only a glimpse of what could happen if the family doesn't prioritize adequate medical care. Carissa's attitude with religion and healthcare was terrible. Her status as a parent is all the more scary, because we're talking about human lives here, 11 human lives. Now, you might be wondering, where is her husband, Mandre, in the Collins story? Well, at the time of Anthem's distressing medical crisis, Mandre was coaching a volleyball game, and Carissa had only told her mother to inform him about the situation after the game. Just imagine her priorities. Other than his late appearance at the hospital, Mandre was well received, maybe because he was more level-headed than his wife. But is he, though? Putting Anthem's hospital situation to the side, where does he stand in the family's recurring controversies? From an overall point of view, Mandre Collins is the head of the house and also the reason behind 11 children with his name and DNA on the internet. You'd think that he has a voice when it comes to how his wife and kids are being perceived online. But where is he? What does he do whenever Carissa takes the spotlight? Well, the simple answer is nothing. Mandre's always there, but he doesn't do anything. He's silent, like a background character. He partakes in the cute family videos, and he does well in blending his love for sports with his spiritual life.
Said, man, before I know it, that selfish mentality, my identity in Christ was I ain't gonna say transferred. It had turned into an identity of a selfish, glory-seeking basketball player.
However, on the Collins family page, he doesn't seem much of an active player. While we can't judge his parenting skills for sure, it does seem like Mandre is a capable father since he can take care of 11 children. One shortcoming is how he doesn't remember all their birthdays.
What is Anderson's birthday?
7 is July.
And another one, or the biggest one, is the fact that he keeps enabling this pregnancy addiction. To raise an army of kids wasn't Carissa's alone. Mandre also played a role in their family. Not to mention even the fact that he doesn't check his wife's attitude is a problem on its own. Mandre sits on the sidelines while Carissa scream praise her children from illnesses. He looks at the frame of Carissa's miracle list and he says nothing of it. This quiet attitude, along with Carissa's overbearing behavior, really creates a recipe for disaster for their 11 children. It makes you wonder what they believe is best for the kids. Carissa has proven time and time again that the hospital was never her go-to place in times of health crisis. Even after Anthem recovered from the UTI situation, she wholeheartedly acknowledged God's intervention in the case. While I appreciate the hard work of the doctors, they still don't know why it happened or how to help her. It was literally only God that got her through. He gets all the glory. It's quite obvious where her mind is in this whole situation. It got to a point that onlookers who had to watch from the sidelines finally decided to take action. Carissa was reported to Child Protective Services, CPS, up to 4 times. For some reason, Carissa managed to wiggle herself out of this situation. She even shared the update on her Instagram page, calling the worried people who had called Child Protective Services on her trolls. Carissa wrote, "Go ahead and call CPS. They've cleared us same day 4 times. We have nothing to hide. We love God and we love our children. We even love you. We know who God created us to be and we'll continue walking in it." Carissa always did this. She would come on the internet to talk about trolls and how her family didn't care about what they said. Sadly, what she fails to understand each time is why people are always worried about her own children. No one would contact Child Protective Services for no good reason. Carissa's religious attitude and her intolerance for medical care made internet users worried. That's why she had to deal with this kind of issue not once, but 4 times. It's truly mind-blowing how she's remained active on the internet till now. And guess what? Her reign of terror didn't end with the Anthem situation or her multiple CPS escapes. Because other than her disregard for basic health care, Carissa also doesn't value her children's education. You heard that right. Carissa and Mandre Collins are homeschooling their 11 kids.
What you looking for? We got what you looking for. What you looking for? We got what you looking for.
In order to afford the family size they're breeding, they simply trust God while living a cheap and minimalist lifestyle. Carissa provided an outline on the basic options they typically go for while managing 11 kids. At the top of this list is their habit of paying their tithe. They help those in need. They prioritize bulk food over kids' meals at restaurants. They rent movies to watch at home instead of going to the cinema. They eat out once a week on weekends. These are great ways a family like the Collins could manage their size without breaking the bank. And as you would have guessed, homeschooling is part of this system. It's number 9 on the list. Carissa stated, "We don't pick the most expensive homeschool curriculum. There is lots of free options." In an old video posted on YouTube in 2020, Carissa stated that she homeschools her children because God told her to.
And I decided to homeschool, first of all, because God...
Would you take a look at that? Bear in mind that Mandre and Carissa both went to college. They received proper education while growing up. Carissa went to high school and even graduated from Barclay College with a degree in business management and Bible knowledge and ministry. And Mandre also finished high school and college. He bagged a degree in business administration from Sterling College, Kansas. Both of them received formal education. But now that it's time for their kids to learn and be better than their parents, they're not taking this similar course of action. It's like they intentionally want their kids to be dumb for the rest of their lives. In that same YouTube video, Carissa explained that her 2 oldest kids went to preschool and kindergarten for 2 years.
God told me to. My kids went to public school for 2 years, and Miss and Andre did. They went to kindergarten, preschool.
But here's the part she didn't really like. According to Carissa, her children changed because of the friends they made at school.
The kids they hung out with changed them. They came home like playing zombies in kindergarten. They don't know what zombies are. All their friends watched Walking Dead. And that was just too much for me because we don't expose our kids to that, especially at...
Carissa explained that her children's friends in preschool watched Walking Dead. Does this sound believable? That majority of kids under 10 years old watched the show and began to influence her kids? They could have been playing for all she knew. Kids do that. You don't see them playing tag and say, "Oh, they watched a slasher movie, they're bad kids." Anyway, moving on, Carissa stated that apart from the fact that her children were acting like zombies, they were also getting bullied and their language changed.
They were also getting bullied and just their language changed.
It's quite hard to believe someone like her who interprets the Bible her own way. For all we know, these children were playing a game. They could have been playing and mumbling since they were still in kindergarten. And if we do believe for a second that her kids had been bullied and were learning adulterated habits from school, Carissa could have easily arranged a meeting with the teachers or enrolled them in another school. but a complete withdrawal from public education was what she chose. She even attested that she loved the teachers and the schools around her neighborhood.
And while I love their teachers and the schools across the street.
Does this sound like something a mother would say if she really believed her kids were in the wrong environment? So it was obvious that Carissa was just making excuses. This fact became evidently clear with this next reason.
And so that was one thing. The other thing was they would go to school in the morning and then come home at night, eat dinner, and go to bed. And I felt like I did.
There you have it. Carissa simply wanted her kids under her radar. This was the main reason why homeschooling was her best choice. Other explanations given in the video were basically areas of normal schooling that she didn't agree with. For instance, the fact that teachers don't pray or talk about God.
And then, the obvious other things that I personally believe that there's indoctrinated views in the schools that the teachers don't have any say in. They're not allowed to pray, they're not allowed to talk about God.
And she also claimed that a lot of children in schools have gender issues that she didn't want her kids to be part of.
A lot of kids have gender issues, identity issues, and they're overly sexualized in school, and I want them to learn about that.
Turns out Carissa's reactions are formed on nothing but generalizations. Fine, these might be issues that actually go on in schools, but her sense of fear and panic is what makes it problematic in this context. Carissa talked as if her children would face gender-based issues every day at school. This paranoid behavior is certainly a bad trait for a mom to have. This is because she's creating this weird notion that it's her and her children against the world. And it's a damaging mindset for the kids. Also, on the issue of teachers not praying and talking about God, Carissa forgot that schools, like other businesses, are a public setting. Diversity exists. People with different cultural and religious backgrounds exist. It's impossible to practice one religion at the expense of another. And if the lack of theological teachings was truly a problem, she could easily enroll the kids in a Christian school where the chances of students watching The Walking Dead and acting like zombies are likely to be low. And if not that, then public schools would have been okay since the fees are considerably lower than that of private schools. Carissa could have easily settled for any other option if she wanted the best for her kids. Exposure through social interactions is really necessary to build confidence in kids, a confidence that can one day help them build their businesses like their father. Like this study from the University of Minnesota states, social interaction provides the means via which we gradually become able to see ourselves through the eyes of others, and how we learn and who we are and how we fit into the world around us. Children need to see the world and meet people if they're ever going to grow psychologically. But now we have a mother of 11 restricting all her kids from experiencing such growth. Carissa Collins' reasons for pulling her children out of public schools were not serious issues. She was just a paranoid and overzealous mother who wanted complete control over her children. Unfortunately, she has achieved this selfish goal now. All her children are being homeschooled, away from the realities of the world. And when you're away from the outside world, problems are bound to arise. Now, specifically speaking, when you're managing 11 kids as a mother and your husband works as a coach outside the house, where's the proper time to teach these kids the right curriculum?
So today, I'm wearing a nice dark shade of exhaustion under my eyes. Hope you like it.
And the worst part is these kids are in different grades and classes by normal school standards. Teaching all of them from grade 1 to 10 is not one man's job. That's why schools exist. People in the comments shared similar concerns. Someone wrote, "Why not just send them to Christian schools that do follow your beliefs?" And another commenter claimed, "We all went to public schools, turned out just fine, and it didn't shake our faith in God." These were not bad comments. They only reflected that there were different options that Mandre and Carissa could have gone for instead of basic homeschooling. But sadly, Carissa couldn't care less. She even made TikTok content out of the situation, calling her children awkward and unsocialized.
I homeschool, so of course my kids are awkward and unsocialized.
This means that they cannot act like normal kids in public. Do you know how sad that is? When other kids are playing, they could be that one kid in the corner that no one wants to play with. This is what Carissa Collins was making content out of. To her, it was fun, but in reality, it's sad and depressing. Her children are losing out on making friends and building their own personalities. It's quite sad how Carissa was endangering the future of her kids for TikTok content. For her, homeschooling was the best. but from the way we've seen her tackle parenting, it's safe to assume that her heart isn't really in the right place with these kids. Apart from making content about homeschooling, she also posts ads for agencies on curriculums that people can buy through her. Carissa Collins is truly numb to the needs of her kids. Although they smile on camera, internet users can still catch the upsetting looks on some of these kids' faces. Here's a promising and recent example. In this video where Carissa announced her pregnancy for the 12th child, the one she recently miscarried, there were mixed reactions from her kids.
12 children, you guys. Yay! Yay! Mommy's pregnant! Yay! You're pregnant! Mom, I knew it! Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, no! Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait, no! I don't know what I'm gonna have, but yeah.
The younger kids are doing what they're supposed to, cheering, clapping, playing their role. But if you look at the older children in the background, you can see the exact moment their souls leave their bodies.
No, Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait, no! I don't know what I'm gonna have, but yes, I'm pregnant. Mom! She's pregnant! Give me it. No way! You're pregnant! Yes, I needed to get it out.
They were too stunned to speak, and the eldest daughter, Anissa,
You said 12 children. You guys. Yay! Yay! Mommy's pregnant! Yay! You're pregnant! Mom, I knew it! Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, no! Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait!
you can see how much she tried to keep her true emotions at bay, her mouth hanging wide, completely in shock and disbelief etched all over her face. You can tell that her instant reaction was not pure joy. That feeling had been shared multiple times over, but this time around it was different. She looked as if she was thinking about her life in that future, the new babysitting hours, her new priority in addition to her other siblings. She saw something in that announcement that her younger innocent siblings didn't see.
I'm gonna have my yes, I'm pregnant. Mom! Give me it. No way! You're pregnant!
Yes, I needed to get
I
it
know,
out.
I saw you so.
I'm not joking.
You're pregnant.
I thought I
You can tell
was.
Dad. You can tell Dad.
Yeah,
You're pregnant!
Look at the way her smile dropped. It was so obvious that Carissa's bombshell had hit a sore spot. And it wasn't just Anissa, even Carissa's third oldest child and second daughter, Aniston, wasn't jumping for joy at the news.
Hear me, I said 12 children.
You said 12 children. You guys. Yay! Yay! Mommy's pregnant! Yay! You're pregnant! Mom, I knew it! Mom, you're pregnant! No, Mom, no! Mom, you're gonna have children. Wait, no!
I don't know what I'm gonna have, but yes.
Their expressions and silent communication was louder than their little siblings' cheers in front, because baby number 12 was nothing to be happy about. It was more work and more responsibilities. Anissa, still being mindful of the camera, tried to maintain a cool expression. Unfortunately, there are just some things you can't hide for too long. A disappointed look for an incoming 11th sibling is one of them, so she walked away entirely.
You're on your period!
I thought I was. I thought I was. I'm not joking. I thought I was.
You can tell Dad. You can tell Dad.
Yeah,
You're pregnant!
These weren't the reactions of the children excited about a new sibling. These were the reactions of the children who knew their lives as average kids were totally cooked. If they thought they'd seen enough before, this new announcement was a wake-up call to them. Their mother truly had no breaks in this game of procreation, and as the video attracted more than 10 million views and over 300,000 likes. With this statistical value, you'd think that the comments would be filled with congratulatory notes. But that was not the case. TikTok users had immediately caught on to the children's reaction, and they were not happy. Oldest daughter's face says it all. Poor girl. The two oldest looked so hurt. And even this particular user wrote a very striking comment that over 40,000 people agreed with. The older kids looked devastated, probably sick of watching all those kids. It does make sense. Carissa's children's reactions to that pregnancy announcement could have been indicators that the older ones were the ones raising the kids themselves. These grown children could have been the ones changing diapers, babysitting, and sacrificing their teenage years to be third and fourth parents. Unfortunately, Chris Collins and her husband believed they had built a solid foundation around their family and their cheerful content. However, little signs like this only showcase some imperfections that had been hiding in plain sight. And the sad thing is, you can't help feel sorry for the kids. Their family's not the average kind you see on social media. And with them not interacting with the outside world, they could remain blissfully unaware that their family's problematic. Carissa's pregnancy addiction is one problem on its own, and her doctrine is another. From all that we've discussed so far, it'll interest you to know that we've only scratched the surface. Now prepare yourself to receive the shock of a lifetime as we explore the real religious nature of Carissa. So why does Carissa keep having children? What drives someone to have 11 kids and counting, especially when it's clearly taking a toll on the existing kids? The answer is Carissa believes that sterilization and abortion is not approved according to the Bible.
Find anywhere in the Bible that gives us permission to choose to prevent, sterilize, or abort.
That's right, Carissa believes that any form of contraception, birth control pills, condoms, vasectomy, and even pullouts is a sin against God.
I went on birth control knowing that, but I was like, I'm not going to prevent future children, and the vasectomy is permanent. Well, every single day for a week that I put that pill in my mouth, I knew, like the Bible says, anything not done in faith is sin. And so I knew I was...
It's a very tough following, and Carissa held on to it like gospel.
I told my husband, this was the hardest thing I've done so far in our marriage, I really believe, that I've had to do. I said, I'm giving you over to a vasectomy because I can't partake in sin. So I said, I will not pull out. I will not do anything that is going to prevent God from giving.
But here's where you see manipulation blending with religious beliefs. Carissa claimed she cannot take in sin by using contraceptives, and if Mandre were to get a vasectomy, she wouldn't say anything, even though she believed it was sinful.
I said, I can't partake, but I also can't force you. And so I said, you can get a vasectomy, but you will stand before the Lord one day, and you will account for what you've done.
Wow. This reasoning is extremely manipulative, and it could point at a possible reason why Mandre had allowed his family to grow into such an extended unit. Was Carissa constantly guilt-tripping him to make more babies? Is there a form of religious manipulation taking root in the Collins family, especially around the children? Seeing Carissa's attitude to what she believes is the gospel truth makes you wonder the 101 things that might be going on in that family. Carissa's platform is built around her ministry of procreation. She's not just living her beliefs privately, she's actively trying to recruit other women into this lifestyle. Her mission statement is to encourage women to trust God with your womb.
I'm not all about a following. I just am simply here to share the message that God has given me and the ministry that I have, which is just encouraging women that you can trust God with your womb, that you can rely on Him to give you His blessings in children.
And she urges families to accept however many kids God decides to give them.
And so we encourage women and families, not just women, but families, to trust God with however many children He wants to.
This message has been a recurring pattern in Carissa's story. She voices it in her captions. Yes, your body was made for this. No, it's not dangerous to trust God, and no, you'll never regret it. And it's pinned on her Instagram highlights. It's everywhere. Carissa spreads sermons about pro-life, pro-pregnancy, and anti-abortion. She's even involved AI in her ministry. ChatGPT provided answers ranging from encouraging contraceptives to encouraging abortion. For Carissa, these were the tools of the devil. And there you have it. Evidence birth control isn't from God, but is a weapon from the enemy. He can't create life, so he'll do anything to stop it. Carissa is always trying hard to spread her doctrine. She even once implied that people talk down on her having multiple children because they can't relate.
I understand that people cannot imagine having 11 children, and it blows their mind, and so they have to find something to say about it.
This mission meant everything to her, seeing how she was using AI and underhanded shade to talk to her followers. Now let's consider a very serious question. Where does this belief come from? Because letting God use your womb to procreate till eternity is not in the Bible. The Bible only mentions the womb when God is referenced to have bestowed a divine appointment or favor on people long before they were born. We see it in the book of Jeremiah. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I anointed you as a prophet to the nations. This same applies to this part of the book Isaiah, where it's stated that God had bestowed favor on the appointed one right from the womb. Listen to me, you islands. Hear this, you distant nations. Before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb, He has spoken my name. These are the ways the womb's been referenced in the Bible. There's no passage anywhere that talks about God telling women procreate simply because He was in charge of their wombs. So where does Carissa's theology stem from? The main scripture that people like Carissa point at two scriptures in Genesis. First is Genesis 1 verse 28, which essentially instructs to be fruitful and multiply. Carissa has used this passage to further her ministry on her TikTok page, so it serves as justification for her pregnancy addiction.
Some things don't work and that's the way love goes.
And now this brings us to the second most popular scripture in Genesis, the one that might be the foundation of her anti-birth control campaign. It's the story of Onan. Here's a quick version. Onan's brother died before having children. According to the law at that time, Onan was supposed to sleep with his brother's widow so the family line could continue. But when Onan slept with her, he purposely pulled out and spilled his seeds so he wouldn't get her pregnant. God saw this as evil and killed him. So Judah told Onan, "Go and sleep with your brother's widow. It's the duty of a brother-in-law to keep your brother's line alive." But Onan knew that the child wouldn't be his. So whenever he slept with his brother's widow, he spilled his semen on the ground so he wouldn't produce a child for his brother. God was much offended by what he did and also took his life. This is the only part of the Bible that talks about pulling out and the possible punishment for it in the Old Testament. Now, Carissa must have taken this passage and run with it, claiming it proves that any form of contraception is sinful. But if you read the passage in context, it's pretty clear God wasn't mad about contraception, he was mad about the disobedience. Onan was legally and religiously obligated to give his brother an heir, and he refused. That's what got him killed, not the act of pulling out itself.
And it's not because he didn't finish in her and because he finished outside of her. It was because he didn't complete the task that he was committed.
There is no part of the Bible that explicitly states that contraception is a sin. The entire argument against birth control is based on interpretation, and Carissa bases her arguments on this logic. Here's an example. If we believe life comes from God, why would we partner to prevent it? And if life comes from God, why would God actively show man how to prevent and kill it? She bases her arguments on this kind of premise. Bible scriptures are rarely cited. Sometimes she even falls back to research to push her pregnancy campaign. So I did some research. I'm no expert here, but this is what I found. I've had my own terrible experiences and side effects with birth control, only being on them for 6 months. You have a 0.0002% chance of dying from childbirth, but a 0.00052% chance of dying from birth control. 31% of women have negative side effects from birth control, and 52% say they were worse than expected. These are the ways that Carissa has tried to push her ministry. But contraceptives are used for various other reasons. According to the World Health Organization, contraceptives can help reduce HIV transmissions from mothers to newborns. It can be used to prevent unintended pregnancies, and in doing so, maternal health could be maintained and the number of pregnancy-related deaths could be reduced. Contraceptives still serve life-saving purposes, but Carissa's main focus remains on bringing children into the world. She views these kids as trophies, not people who would grow up with distorted social and religious beliefs as a result of her parenting. In her words, children are eternal and valuable.
I simply believe that we are to live lives of faith and that children are eternal and they're the only eternal thing that we have with us on this earth, and that they have value, lots of value, the most valuable thing we can have or we can control.
Considering how she uses her kids to build her social media accounts, perhaps this is where the values are being extorted. The more you think about it, the more you feel sorry for the kids. Carissa's doctrines are kind of messed up. She views things of the world as either ordained by God or tools of the devil. We saw the way she handled her children's health earlier. And if you thought scream praying was the only area where she let religion cloud her sense of judgment, then this new disclosure will blow your mind. Carissa's not only against contraceptives, she also preaches against vaccination. You heard that right, Carissa doesn't vaccinate her kids. Vaccines protect children against serious diseases like measles, polio, and tetanus, yet Carissa refuses to take her children to the hospital for this treatment, and she proudly shares this piece of info on her social media platforms. Check out the post she once made on her Instagram story. "I vaxxed my older kids, they were always sick, allergies, asthma, viruses, ear infections. Now as adults, they all have autoimmune diseases. I began researching about 10 years ago. I stopped vax when I learned the truth of what's in them. My vaxxed son got polio. Yes, you read that right. My younger children are never sick. I mean never. My 5-year-old has never once been sick except for a tiny cold. He's never been on antibiotics. Zero vax." Anti-vaccination is one of Carissa's agenda. She often calls it poison. Once she even posted on her Instagram that God broke her ribs to stop her from poisoning her children. Speaking of poison, one day God broke my rib after my 7th baby was born, and as I was praying for healing, he told me to stop poisoning my children. I agreed to never do it again and was immediately healed, and my kids have never been healthier. Carissa pushed this topic hard on social media, and internet users were not pleased. Ew, she's just awful. Her poor babies have been in and out of the ER for years, and she wants to act like modern medicine and vaccines are the boogeyman. She's a confetti-ass clown. She is so mentally ill. And even this one questioned her faith as an evangelist. So you worship a God who you believe broke your effing rib. The internet was in an uproar, and fortunately Instagram caught wind of it and her account was shadow banned. But this hasn't stopped her from spreading her ministry. In fact, Carissa continued to preach her gospel to many audiences, including poor people. In a long caption, she essentially argued that poor people have no excuse to not have children. This is what she wrote. People always say you should only have children if you can afford them. Absolutely not. If that was true, I wouldn't have any children. Carissa wrote with the conviction of a preacher on a pulpit. The kind of preacher who says, "Who told you you can't do it? Just have faith and you can buy that private jet." That's exactly how she sounds writing all these captions. It's strung like a sales pitch, but it's wholly problematic. Through this text, Carissa is telling poor people that they don't have to do any proper planning before having kids. Have the kids first, and provision and care would come naturally. This is the message she's sending across, and if someone were to believe her words, they would be entering a world of trouble. Carissa's reasoning on care and provision is another weird aspect of this controversial take. She says, "Also, what exactly does afford mean? Breastfeeding is free. Onesies are 99 cents at the thrift store. Diapers are your biggest expense. And if you can upgrade your phone and cable, you can add in some diapers. The real question is how many of your needs are actually needs. In America, we're all living in abundance." That last statement, "in America, we're all living in abundance," is completely idealistic. This is coming from someone who goes for the cheapest alternative to save cost and afford her family. And here she is speaking about abundance, throwing the word as if she prints money at home. Her words are tone deaf, but at the same time, they could inspire someone like her. Someone who wants to procreate without adequate financial and material resources. Just look at this other post she raised. You don't have to be a millionaire to trust God with your family size. There is a misconception that we are millionaires. We recently moved into our dream home on land, but that doesn't mean we've always been able to afford it. You only see the now, but you can't see the struggle. You can't see the paycheck to paycheck years we've invested as God grew our family. You can't see the hardships and struggles along the way. We're 41 now and seeing all of God's promises coming true. Her words are venom masked as honey. Advocating for childbearing and poverty is not faith. It's a systematic endorsement of child neglect, because poor parents will eventually fail in providing for their children. She's telling poor people that it's okay to have more than 10 children. She's telling them to start now and God will provide. But what'll happen if that supernatural help doesn't come? Will Carissa take responsibility for them? And the truly infuriating part, she frames this as a religious issue that can be solved by having faith in God. She's telling poor people that if they're truly faithful, God will provide. And if God doesn't provide, well, that must mean you didn't have enough faith. In the long run, this kind of advocacy puts the blame on the struggling parents while absolving Carissa of any responsibility for giving harmful advice. What Carissa is conveniently leaving out is the fact that she herself isn't struggling financially compared to other poor-stricken families out there. She and Mandre have social media income. Their TikTok account, which should be their primary source of social media income, could earn them between $400 to $1,000 per 1 million views. From what we've discussed earlier, we've seen that their videos amass millions of views. If Carissa earns a minimum of $400 per 1 million views, that means a video like this one with 40 million views can fetch her a whopping $16,000 minimum. Now remember, this is all speculative and might not be the real figure, but it does offer a glimpse of what Carissa could be earning from posting content online. Poor people don't have that privilege. She claims that they're not millionaires, but her family owns a house.
7 months ago, my husband bought this land, and for 5 months, we've been building and designing this home for our children. Our children knew we were moving because our house has been for sale, but it hasn't sold yet, so they had no idea that we had already picked out and built a house.
Carissa told her audience that she's not that rich, yet they drive a huge van. Not to mention she runs a boutique called Rooted in Christ Boutique, while Mandre works in auto finance and owns a basketball company. Whether it's the right figure or not, it's obvious that the Collins family has more money than the average family. They own a house and drive a huge van. Most average families can't afford this, yet Carissa always watered down her blessings to make it seem like she could relate to other families out there. Most poor families don't have access to those opportunities. The point here is not that poor people should be denied the experience of having children. It's Carissa's way of advocating that poverty shouldn't be an excuse for poor families to give birth as excessively as she's doing. She's encouraging a deep, blind dive into a family unit without proper planning. Also remember that she's not just telling people to have 1 or 2 kids, she's preaching that they should have as many children as physically possible. This means that you can go over and above until menopause as long as you're still alive. It's absurd. What's even more crazy is how she contradicts herself with this teaching. Carissa's claims that poor people should have kids even if they can't afford them is harmful advice. Even the Bible clearly states that the Lord repays those who help the poor in Proverbs chapter 19, verse 17. Carissa didn't preach a way out of poverty through her doctrine for the poor. She only enticed the minds of unassuming parents, making them believe they could invest blindly into an uncertain future full of kids. In the same book of Proverbs, there are extensive talks about planning and wisdom. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." This verse completely changes everything Carissa has been advocating. Hasty and poor planning will lead to poverty. If you're poor and can't even afford to cater to your own needs, maybe having children and subjecting them to a life of poverty is something to think about. The Bible clearly warns against acts that are not built on foundations of wisdom, yet Carissa Collins always carried her ministry as if it were total gospel. Her selfish belief on pregnancy only points to one fact: Carissa has a breeding addiction. There are multiple people out there with this kind of breeding addiction. Families like the Rodriguez family of 13 children, the Duggar family of 19, and even the more recent Jenkins family of 7 who live in a single apartment.
Welcome back, y'all. Come spend a wholesome night with the resilient Jenkins. We started off with our typical nighttime routine of making sure everything gets cleaned up. Now, unfortunately, the belt keeps going out on our vacuum, so we just go ahead and use the hose.
These families have a lot of kids. Carissa, for one, fits into a large faction that are religious about it. These are the Quiverful families. Now, Quiverful isn't technically a religion, it's a philosophy within Christianity. The name comes from Psalm 127, verses 4 through 5, which reads, "Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their opponents in court." The basic premise is this: Christians should have as many children as physically possible and raise them to be warriors for Christ. The goal isn't just about having a large family, it's about building an army.
So the Quiverful movement believes that having children in large numbers or quantities is a way of control and weaponry, with the idea that they can birth more conservative Christians in a world that doesn't have enough.
They frame it as freedom, as empowerment, as mothers taking control of their families through this wide sense of togetherness. In fact, they're not just creating big families, they're starting tribes.
One of the ways that Quiverful ideology is so attractive is that it basically promises women that they're going to create this tribe of people that they are bonded to for the rest of their lives. And not only are you going to have that attachment to them as the mother, but your children are going to be bonded to each other. And it's going to be this beautiful, glorious thing. And then as your children get married and have children, they're just going to...
But here's the thing about this movement: it's not as rosy as it sounds. They're testimonies from adults who grew up in Quiverful families. And mind you, they're not sweet.
I was homeschooled in a Quiverful evangelical fundamentalist setting, K through 12, my entire life. And my mother was a somewhat well-known mommy blogger in the mid-2000s through the early 20s.
For example, this TikToker explained that Quiverful families always preach that raising a big family is cheap. And for their argument to hold water, they encourage families to drop one of two things. First is well child visits, which involves taking your children for regular healthcare checkups.
They always advocate for dropping one of two things. Number one is well child visits. It is a very common rhetoric within mega families that well child visits are a scam invented by doctors to rip you off.
Just like Carissa's paranoia with hospitals and vaccines, this rhetoric basically preaches that health facilities are not the best places for parents to take their kids. By advocating for this kind of teaching, the Quiverful movement essentially calls for limited healthcare visits for children. That means little to no vaccination or dental visits.
Yes, this does go extremely hand in hand with anti-vaxxing. How could you have guessed? This also stretches to apply to 6-month dental visits. They think you need to go like once every couple of years.
It's very typical for a mega family to believe these things. Why? Because they'd be able to save money and appear knowledgeable to the public. Like Carissa, they can boast that they haven't fully vaccinated their children in years and they never fell sick. And if there are families that are gullible enough to believe them, they might be enticed to start their own mega family. Moving on, medical expenses aren't the only thing Quiverful families cut out of their budget. They also prefer homeschooling. This brings us to this TikToker's second point.
The second thing they always say that is fine and good even to cut to make children cheaper is extracurriculars. Back that one up with the rhetoric that your children should be each other's best friends. Who needs outside friends when you...
Can you see how similar in thinking these principles apply to Carissa Collins' decisions? These are essentially patterns that the Quiverful movement endorse. It's cult-like, and yet Carissa makes it seem like there's a divine underlining attached somewhere. However, beyond this very problematic cost-cutting belief system, The quiverful movement still has many downsides. One of them is the fact that the older children are parentified at a young age. This essentially translates to them being parents to their younger siblings. These grown kids would have no choice but to share the responsibility of taking care of the much younger ones. One mom and one dad can't handle 11 children, especially if they're not attending proper schools and are at home all the time. For example, this TikToker named Brittany, who grew up with 14 siblings, shared her side of the story.
I'm the eldest daughter of 15 kids. Hi, I'm Brittany, and I have 14 siblings. I have one older brother, he's 31, I'm 30, and our youngest sibling.
Brittany's experience growing up in a large household was far from interesting. And do you know why? Because she was parentified at a young age. Her orientation as a child was built on the need to look out for her younger siblings.
I was parentified at a very young age, and I believe that it is impossible to have this many children and not parentified.
Children aren't meant to share the responsibilities of taking care of a family with their parents. Such a dynamic is always harmful to the kids because it not only steals their childhood, but also leaves them emotionally regretful, and they'll always remember that in the future. This was exactly what happened in Brittany's case.
Because I was parentified, I did not really get much of a childhood. I missed out on a lot of normal childhood.
At the time, Brittany had realized that her life at home was making her miss out on experiences with friends that could come once in a lifetime.
I had to miss so many experiences that my friends got to take part in. For example, in the 4th grade, if you read 100 books for the year, you got to attend like a water park day at the end of the year. I had to miss my water park day in order to babysit my younger siblings so that my parents could go.
You don't remain a child forever. These are your best years to get creative, have fun, make mistakes, learn from them, build relationships, and understand complexities outside the home. These are part of the learning experiences for children at that age. But Brittany unfortunately didn't enjoy such privileges. And that was not the only harsh reality she had to face. Apart from taking care of her siblings, Brittany claimed that she never enjoyed privacy at home.
I did not have any personal space or privacy growing up. I never had my own room. I always shared a room with multiple siblings, and I often shared a bed with my younger siblings. Instead of just going to bed at night like a normal kid, I was putting toddlers and babies to sleep.
Can you imagine growing up in that kind of environment? Do you know what it does to a person? Mind you, Brittany's mom was still in the picture. She still had her own share of responsibilities. But at the end of the day, she's only one human who can handle so many kids single-handedly.
Don't get me wrong, my mother stayed home with us, and she did a lot. She ran a very tight ship. However, it was quite literally impossible to take care of that many children as one person.
Brittany had to sacrifice so many childhood experiences for her siblings. Extracurricular activities at school, the chance for her parents to attend her events. She would always put the needs and well-beings of her siblings first.
Did not get to participate in many extracurricular activities or have any hobbies growing up. There were too many of us that my parents couldn't attend every single kid's soccer or baseball event. So oftentimes, as an older sibling, I would forego those activities so that my younger siblings could have those experiences.
No child should be made to become too mature for their age, especially when they're not groomed in a very violent environment. This was just a simple family home, and Brittany had no choice but to strive for perfection. To be a model example to her siblings, she had to force herself to become someone close to perfect, and this mentality stuck with her through the years into adulthood.
Something that still affects me to this day, my self-worth is very dependent on how well I perform in society.
This is the future of many children in quiverful households today. If care is not taken, they would likely find themselves in the future, looking back on what they missed and were forced to accept when they were little and might have to go to therapy. Children taking on parenting roles is no funny business. This TikToker, Chemo, one of 8 siblings, also shared insights similar to Brittany's.
Not just the matching outfit, it's not just the choreographed Bible verses, it's the emotional neglect disguised as tradition. There are kids being raised by their siblings.
Having grown up in a large household, Chemo claimed that there were emotional needs that were left unanswered.
Look, I come from a family of 8. Every single one of us got our own story about what we needed and what we didn't get, what we got but didn't need, about all the affection.
These needs could be the desire to feel loved, safe, and accepted, but parents in this case would be too sidetracked with other priorities to pay attention to these needs. His video basically touched on the emotional neglect he believes his children might be facing in their daily lives.
You cannot tell me I love all my kids equally. One person, one mother cannot emotionally nurture 12 human beings by yourself. You just can't. And regardless whatever support system you have, at the end of the day, that child wants their
In his mind's eye, the Collins family was simply performative.
What you're watching online is not inspiring. It's concerning. 12 kids lined up, singing in sync, like a choir of trained soldiers. That's not joy. That's pressure.
Chemo didn't believe their smiles on camera were genuine. For him, this was exploitation, children being used as brands by their parents on social media.
There's nothing wrong with having a lot of kids, but when you're doing it for likes, clicks, and making them a brand, that's a problem. Because it's no longer parenting, it's conditioning. Kids aren't...
Think back to Carissa's oldest children who reacted badly to the news of Carissa's 12th child. This moment clearly hinted at a problem that Chemo and Brittany had talked about: parentification and emotional deregulation. It's clear that Anissa and Anistan were the youngest mothers in the Collins family, and Carissa suddenly making an announcement for another child showed that she was numb to their own feelings and opinions on the entire birthing issue. This is how harmful Carissa was to her own kids.
Becoming moms before they can even be kids. Teenagers raising toddlers while you're doing devotion. This is not holy.
From what we've seen in these quiverful stories, there are patterns repeating themselves in the Collins family. Children are raising their siblings while the parents are oblivious to their emotional needs. And Carissa's central ideologies of anti-vaccination and homeschooling were directly tied to behavioral science and culture, and that is the quiverful movement. With this knowledge pack, we now have a bit of understanding as regards Carissa Collins' attitude towards her own family. And from the testimonies we just watched, we also know that the scary part is what lies ahead in the future. If care is not taken, there could be serious consequences for the Collins kids. We've already seen what happened with Anthem. The entire UTI situation perfectly demonstrates how Carissa's ideology directly harms her children. When your ideology prevents you from providing basic medical care to your kids and your faith makes you ignore warning signs, then you're just endangering your children. So what now? What future awaits the Collins family? Throughout the dive into Carissa Collins and her children, one thing remained crystal clear. She doesn't view her children as individual human beings with their own needs, desires, and futures. Her primary goal is to accumulate as many children as physically possible. Then, according to the quiverful doctrine, these children would naturally be trained on religious beliefs while missing out on quality education and adequate medical checkups. Carissa has not been able to convince her audience that she values her children in the right way possible. Merely erasing vaccination from their care package is harmful in itself. What kind of mother does that to her kids? And Carissa has 11 of them. This isn't a small group, this is a tribe of people who would grow up with different mental, emotional, and social orientations. Children are not props for religious beliefs. They aren't numbers to add to the kingdom. They aren't just blessings that one should accept without considering whether one can properly care for them. If something truly is a blessing, then it needs to be handled with care. In the case of the Collins family, there needs to be emotional support, individual attention, and a stable environment according to every single person. Additionally, people have the right to choose whether or not they want children. That choice should be based on an honest assessment of their resources, time, emotional capacity, and ability to provide a stable, nurturing environment. It shouldn't be based on guilt, pressure, or the belief that God will magically make everything work out. Carissa is certainly balancing out the birth rates on her own, along with the other quiverful families we have in this world. But the scary part is this might be at the children's own expense. If they don't find room to grow on their own away from their strict families, then they might have regrets. Just like Brittany, they may be bitter about missing out on fun childhood memories with friends or not developing emotionally. They may also hate that their upbringing pushed them to seek therapy in their adult years. What'll become of Carissa Collins and her family? It's unclear for now. Carissa's entire personality is framed around her kids. Take them away and she doesn't amount to much on the internet. So if ever a day comes that she realizes her excesses and tries to make up for shortcomings as a mother, Carissa's reign of internet terror might eventually end. And if this happens, it doesn't automatically absolve Carissa of her own harmful theology and parenting tactics. We can only hope for change and pray that when that day comes, it wouldn't be at any cost. What do you think? Can the Collins family grow to become one of the normal ones? Or will they head down the road of regret and produce adults like Brittany? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video. What kind of mother turns her son's life into content? A son who became a father at 14, a 3-year-old child who never chose an audience. Now imagine that reality being filmed, edited, and uploaded for strangers. Personal moments repackaged as entertainment. Trauma flattened into clips. Intimate moments turned into engagement. You might think it sounds extreme, but this is the reality for Kayla. She became a grandmother at 33. And instead of drawing a line between private life and public consumption, she turned that reality into a steady stream of TikTok content. her teenage son, his young daughter. Everyday moments filmed, packaged, and delivered to an audience of strangers who scroll, comment, and move on. Kayla DiCenzo has built a large following, mostly by sharing the lives of her 16-year-old son, Xavier, and his 3-year-old daughter, Naomi, with thousands of followers on TikTok. Kayla portrays herself as a super supportive and loving mom who's determined to stand by her kids in the good and not so good times of their lives. Many of her followers love that she consistently shows up for her family and interacts with her on TikTok, commending her for this. However, as time has passed, Kayla's approach to sharing her son's life has evolved in very weird ways. What may have been a genuine support for her 16-year-old son and her 3-year-old granddaughter has now been turned into constant oversharing of intimate details, of pictures and videos that are probably not meant for the internet. Xavier and Naomi seem to have become mere content for TikTok engagements. Xavier grew up like every other kid. As the first child of his parents, he was adored. They doted on him and loved him dearly. But tragedy struck when he had to watch his father die at the age of 11. An 11-year-old should never have to watch his dad die. Depression followed after, and it was treatment center after treatment center. According to Kayla, he was deathly afraid to take medicine and wanted to heal on his own. 3 years later, he got a 15-year-old named Bryn Lee pregnant. Little Xavier had become a dad at age 14. Kayla chose to position herself as a supportive single parent during that period. That decision may partly stem from her own upbringing. She has spoken openly about growing up in an unstable environment, describing a mother who is difficult to please and frequently absent. By her own account, those experiences shaped how she approached parenting, pushing her toward involvement and a level of emotional availability in ways she felt she did not receive herself.
I was raised by a woman who was hard to impress, and I carry that shit real deep in my chest.
Because of this, she decides to always show up for her son every step of the way. She didn't want her son Xavier to experience what she went through. In any situation, she'll always be there for him. You see, there was also a personal parallel that made the situation feel familiar to her. Kayla could identify with Xavier in a way many parents could not, because she was only 19 when she had him. She has spoken about how young and unprepared she felt at the time, still trying to understand adulthood while being responsible for a child. Parenting was something she was learning in real time. That pattern did not begin with her. Kayla's own parents had her when they were just 15. Early parenthood was not an anomaly in her family history, but part of a cycle she had grown up around. That generational context likely shaped how she interpreted Xavier's situation, not as something distant or unimaginable, but something she had already lived through herself. But here's what makes this even more striking. You might assume that someone who had personally lived through early parenthood would be especially careful with her own kids. Someone who knows how much teenage pregnancy can alter life plans would talk about it, warn their children, and use that experience to steer them away from the same outcome. Instead, right under her nose at the very young age of 14, her own son became a teenage father. That's not just a personal moment. It's part of a trend with documented consequences in the real world. In the United States, although teen birth rates have fallen significantly over the last few decades, there's still a notable social issue. For every 1,000 females aged 15 to 19, there were about 13.6 births in 2022, reflecting ongoing teenage parenthood in the country. Research consistently shows that early parenthood is linked to disruptions in education and long-term socioeconomic outcomes. Teen parents, especially young girls, are significantly more likely to drop out of high school or attain fewer years of schooling compared with women who delay childbearing. Studies estimate that teenagers who have a child tend to complete up to nearly 2 fewer years of education than their peers who delay parenthood, which in turn affects earning potential and employment opportunities later in life. Children born to very young parents also face increased risks. Teen parenthood is associated with a higher likelihood of low birth weight and preterm delivery, which are factors connected to health and developmental challenges. According to one of her own posts, Kayla later admitted that what upset her the most was not the fact that Xavier had gotten someone pregnant at 14, but that he did not tell her about it. That detail stands out. It reframes the moment away from concern about the gravity of the situation and toward a sense of personal exclusion. Taken at face value, it raises an uncomfortable question. What kind of parent treats the lack of disclosure as a bigger issue than the reality itself? A 14-year-old becoming a father is not a small development. It carries long-term consequences for education, mental health, finances, and identity. Yet the emphasis appeared to land more on being left out of the loop than on the implications of what had actually happened. In another Facebook post, Kayla admitted that she hesitated before sharing Xavier's story publicly. She acknowledged that putting such a personal situation online felt uncertain and uncomfortable. That moment of doubt matters, because it shows that she was aware that this was not a normal thing to expose. She recognized, at least briefly, that there was a line being crossed. Despite that hesitation, she chose to post anyway. Her justification was that Xavier already had a baby on the way. The implication seemed to be that once the situation existed, privacy no longer mattered, that the reality of impending parenthood somehow made public exposure acceptable or even necessary. That reasoning is difficult to reconcile. A pregnancy does not erase a child's right to privacy. If anything, it makes the situation more sensitive, not less. A 14-year-old navigating fear, responsibility, and confusion is already in a vulnerable position. Turning those moments into content does not reduce the weight of the situation. It amplifies it and freezes it in a permanent digital record. Since Xavier's child, Naomi, was born, Kayla has documented how much love and support she's shown them throughout that phase. Many of her followers have responded very positively to this. I don't support teen pregnancy, however, I support pregnant teens. What once may have felt like a burden is a blessing in disguise. I'm glad you didn't leave their side. I love the way you support them. Thank you for being the parent that is present and supports the situation. What may have started as a story people could easily read as maternal loyalty and unconditional support appears to have shifted into something else entirely. Over time, the focus narrowed. Post after post, video after video, the content centered almost exclusively on her 14-year-old son and his daughter. Their lives became the subject. Their moments became the hook. One viewer observed this and asked her, "Why is every post about this, though?" From the moment she learned that Xavier was going to become a father at 14, the situation was no longer kept within the family. Her followers were brought along almost immediately. Hospital visits were filmed, appointments became updates. What would normally be private milestones in a medical and emotional process were documented in real time and shared outward. From the ultrasound exams to the part where she even posted 3D pictures of what Naomi would look like before she was born. She even went as far as organizing a baby shower, treating the situation as something openly celebratory. Decorations, gifts, smiles, and moments that traditionally mark a joyful milestone were all documented and shared with her followers. The event itself was not kept within close family or friends. It was presented to an audience. In one moment, Kayla brought in her phone to record Naomi's first bath by her parents. In another video, Naomi appears to have just had a bath and Kayla is there, recording her dress up, zooming in on her body as Xavier applies lotion.
Yeah, well, what are you gonna do? Life's a bitch and then you die, right?
Sometimes life's a bitch and then you keep living.
In one video, she speaks openly about how suicidal her son became after the death of his father. It's presented as context for why she wants to film constantly, why she wants to document every interaction, every outcome, every moment they spend together. The framing suggests closeness and protection, but when those moments are recorded, edited, and posted, the meaning shifts. Grief becomes content. A child's mental health crisis becomes part of a public narrative. Even when they're sleeping or about to sleep, Kayla brings in a camera. Beyond the volume of posts, there is also the way the story is repeatedly framed. Many of the videos feel structured rather than incidental, as if moments are being arranged to land a specific reaction. To Kayla, can start to resemble a performance, intentional or not, because the same detail is emphasized over and over again. The age, 14. That number is rarely left out. It's highlighted in captions, repeated in narration, and positioned as the central hook of nearly every post. That repetition changes how the content reads. Instead of being background context, Xavier's age becomes the headline. It's treated less like sensitive information and more like a defining brand trait, something meant to shock, to draw attention, to stop the scroll. Over time, it begins to sound less like concern and more like emphasis for effect. In one post, she states it plainly. Yes, I am a 35-year-old grandma, and yes, my 14-year-old son had a baby. The phrasing is direct, almost declarative, as if anticipating disbelief and leaning into it. The moment is framed not with caution or discomfort, but with a kind of ownership over the situation. The shock value is acknowledged and presented up front. Alongside the constant filming, there's also a pattern in the way these moments are framed through captions. In one post, a clip is edited to suggest that her granddaughter Naomi is competing with another baby for attention. The caption reads, "Hey, you little written as if it were a dialogue coming from an infant. The joke relies on shock, not accuracy, projecting adult language and intent onto a child who cannot speak or understand what's being implied. In another instance, she refers to Naomi as her slave. That word choice stands out immediately. It's not a term people casually use anymore, largely because of its historical weight and the harm it carries, particularly for people of color. Even when used jokingly or metaphorically, it carries associations that many consider deeply inappropriate, especially when applied to a child. What makes these captions notable is not just that they're awkward or poorly judged, but that they reveal how the content is being shaped. The children are not just present on camera, they're being given manufactured personalities, conflict, and language for the sake of engagement. What is consistently missing from all this is any real consideration for privacy. These are not neutral years. Xavier's a teenager trying to understand adulthood, responsibility, and identity all at once, under circumstances that already put him at a disadvantage. Naomi is a child who cannot consent, cannot understand permanence, and cannot opt out, yet their lives are documented as if privacy is optional rather than foundational. Formative years matter because they shape how people see themselves before the world does it for them. For Xavier, every mistake, every adjustment, every vulnerable moment now exists outside of his control, preserved for an audience that has no obligation to be kind. For Naomi, her earliest moments are already attached to narratives she did not create, captions she did not choose, and an identity shaped before she can speak. The risk here is not hypothetical. Once something is online, it does not fade. It gets archived, clipped, reposted, and remembered long after the context is gone. But in all this, there seems to be one burning question. Where's her mother? Brinley is Naomi's mother, but she seems not to be much in Kayla's videos. Someone brought it up and Kayla's response was, "She is an amazing mother. I don't post her because they aren't together." One commenter was unsure of that and responded with, "Amazing mother with a 14-year-old baby daddy? If she's also a teen, then she can't be a good mother to a child when she's still a child herself." And that same can be said of her own son Xavier, but Kayla probably doesn't really care. What she seems to care about is building her TikTok personality. You might wonder why she's so invested in building and maintaining this online persona. And while there's no way to know her motivations for certain, there are some practical factors that cannot be ignored. Kayla runs both TikTok and Facebook accounts where she posts consistently, often multiple times a week. TikTok in particular offers direct financial incentives through its creator payout system. On average, TikTok pays somewhere between $40 and $100 per 100,000 views. Several of her videos reach 600,000 views. Others climb to 800,000. Some spike far higher, pulling in millions, with a few reaching around 5 million views. At that scale, the math becomes difficult to dismiss. A video performing at the upper end of that range could generate several $1,000s in payouts from TikTok alone. A 5 million view video, depending on payout rate, could mean earnings in the range of several $1,000s, potentially around $5,000 from views by themselves, not including additional benefits like follower growth, gifts, or future monetization opportunities. Speaking of gifts, her viewers seem to love her content so much that they send her gifts in support of her raising Naomi. Also on her profile, she has a link to her online Amazon store, where she sells baby items like baby shoes and clothes, and even a crib. The rest of the family is not left out of this show. When Naomi met Kayla's own dad, it became an entire content for TikTok. Another thing Kayla does is adultifying her kids. She captions her posts saying things like, her 14-year-old son is a better dad than most men. Why would she need to compare a 14-year-old boy to most men? He's meant to be in school and needs a dad himself, not be one. He's only a child and knows nothing about being a man or a dad. She adultifies her children, assigning them weird roles and referring to toddlers and kids with adult terms like aunt.
When everything feels like the movies, yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive.
After calling them aunts, she posted a video of her eldest daughter with the caption, her life is over because her brother decided to have a baby at 14. That does not really sit right, especially considering that she was a teen mom as well as her own parents, and her entire message is that having a child as a teen does not ruin anyone's life. Then again, she just makes posts about literally anything just so she can get views and engagements. The real issue is the toll this kind of content takes on her family. In the pursuit of clout and engagements, Kayla may be compromising the very things that make family life meaningful at the expense of her teenage son's dignity, his toddler daughter, her own family, and the well-being of those around her. One commenter said, good, stern parenting would prevent that from happening, which suggests that they think Kayla wasn't strict enough and wasn't a good enough parent to allow her son to have a child at 14 with another teenager. Another said, I would never let this happen to my daughter. Nope, nope, nope. But are these comments only just hating? Kayla often describes herself as a supportive parent, and on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Support is generally seen as a virtue, but support, especially in parenting, is not unconditional approval. It usually involves guidance, limits, and at times, discomfort. The question that naturally follows is whether a parent is meant to support everything their child does, or whether support sometimes means making it clear that certain outcomes are not desirable, even if you stand by your child through them. She stated that she does not condone teenage pregnancy. Yet when you look at her public content, that message is difficult to find. Her TikTok posts do not show tension, correction, or caution. There's no visible emphasis on delay, responsibility, or the long-term consequences of becoming a parent so young. There's no public message about waiting for the right time or how difficult and limiting early parenthood can be. What's shown instead is celebration, normalization, and repetition. The tone of her content matters, repeatedly highlighting the age at which her son became a father, pairing it with upbeat music, jokes, captions, and family moments sends a very specific signal. Even if she says she does not condone teenage pregnancy, the presentation tells a different story. The absence of visible concern or accountability creates the impression that the situation is not just accepted, but endorsed. Over time, that starts to look less like support through hardship and more like glorification of the hardship itself. Because this content is public and widely viewed, it does not exist in a vacuum. Some viewers have begun questioning whether constantly framing teenage parenthood as manageable, celebratory, and even impressive could influence how others see it. When the hardest parts are minimized and the most shocking details are highlighted for engagement, it becomes easier for teenage pregnancy to appear romanticized rather than risky. Not because it's explicitly encouraged, but because it's shown without consequence. One particular post makes this especially clear. In a video featuring Xavier, Naomi, Brinley, and the mother together, Kayla captions it, co-parenting as 16-year-old parents is possible and they are proof of it. The message is framed as inspirational. The problem is what's left unsaid. Possible does not mean advisable. Possibility does not mean sustainable. Possible does not mean without long-term cost. That's a really weird caption for someone who insists that she does not support teen pregnancy. This is even more disturbing because she works with kindergarten kids. However, videos like that weren't received well by some of her audience. One of them said, "Can we stop encouraging this and give consequences for this barely even in high school having kids?" Another comment was, "We need to stop romanticizing teenage pregnancy." The kinds of posts she makes sets an unhealthy example for her teen audience, many of whom may see these videos and begin to think it's okay to be a teenage mom or dad, just as long as you have a cool mom who supports you through the process, like Kayla did for her son. As teenagers, they're too young to understand the struggles that come with raising a child, then raising a child who has a child. This is really telling of how she raises her children. But these are not the only circumstances that show how she chooses to raise her children. She uploaded a video documenting how her daughter was getting her second piercing on her 10th birthday. At a certain point, the pattern starts to suggest that very little is ever challenged. It comes across as if whatever her children choose to do is automatically affirmed. Support, in this context, looks indistinguishable from permission. But parenting usually requires a distinction between standing by your child and stepping in when a situation demands limits. Without that distinction, support can quietly turn into enablement. That concern becomes sharper when you look at how our children are framed. Adult language, adult responsibility, adult narratives are routinely placed onto people who are not adults. When a 14-year-old is spoken about and presented as a father first and a child second, something shifts. Responsibility replaces protection. Expectation replaces guidance. If that level of adult responsibility can be placed on one child so early, it raises questions about where the boundaries are for the others. Once a parent begins treating their children as if they're fully grown, the line that separates childhood from adulthood starts to disappear. This framing does not go unnoticed. In the comments section, some viewers have begun expressing concern about the toll this situation may be taking on Xavier's mental health. This is sad because low-key he's given up his living and enjoying his teenage years, but wishing him all the best though. Stay on him, mental health checks. It ruined my brother and we all supported him. As an adult, he struggled so much from his childhood shifting. Love the baby, but don't ever forget he still is one. Even from her own videos, we can see him as almost miserable and tired. He became a father. What's not expected is how she films every moment of it. In his lowest moments, her best idea was to film him and post it on TikTok to show how much of an adult he is. But he's not an adult. He's a 16-year-old child, and she should have helped him rather than film it. In a different post, Xavier looks miserable as he still tries to be in high school as he does his homework, but his daughter's at his side. Kayla could have easily removed Naomi so he can focus, but she takes this opportunity to create content. She seems to be just more interested in using their story to garner followers who know her as that one grandma, because that's the name she gave herself once she began posting about Naomi and Xavier. No one seems to ask that if she really raised a responsible teenager, would he have gotten another teenager pregnant in the first place? Kayla seems to know this too. She showed her own fear that her other daughters would follow the same footsteps as their brother Xavier. In one post, she admitted to being more strict with her daughter because she already has experience with teen pregnancy.
Somebody's watching me, it's my anxiety.
This only means that Kayla probably reflected on the situation and may also have regrets about what has happened, and she wishes for something better and different for her other children, but then again, that comes off as being a bit hypocritical. Coming on TikTok to perform your love and support no matter what, when secretly wishing it does not happen again with your other children. And while she may have had that moment of reflection with her daughter, it doesn't last long enough, because she apparently has been suggesting to him to have more screen time. When a commenter suggested that her teenage son Xavier start a podcast for teenage dads, she said, "I keep telling him this and he isn't listening." This is bad advice, by the way, because Xavier's only a child whose father died at 11, battled depression, and became a father at 14. Has he properly healed from all the trauma well enough to educate and mentor other teen dads? That doesn't seem like a protective and loving thing to do. But this is not just with Kayla alone. It seems to have become a part of a pattern of behavior that's become common TikTok influencer culture, where the desire for fame and attention often comes before the privacy of one's family and personal boundaries. Kayla uses her teenage son's baby daddy situation to get attention. She claims to be a loving and supportive mother, but she never allowed him to grow into the responsible man she believes he is. She placed him in front of a camera, reducing him, his daughter Naomi, and even Brinley, her mother, to stereotypes or symbols, instead of recognizing them as real, complex individuals who still enjoy the intimacy of private moments. While Kayla may believe her content is empowering or relatable, and may have even gotten a lot of positive feedback from others, it's becoming more difficult to tell the difference between what's public show of affection for family and what is empowering and what's exploiting her teenage son's baby daddy situation for views anymore.